This is a live training where you're going to master node tree in Davinci Resolve. You will also learn everything that you need to know about all the usual suspects, all the main nodes that are in Davinci Resolve. Some of you even ask me, what are even nodes? So people that are coming from Premiere Pro or Final Cut 10, this is going to be a revelation. People that use Davinci Resolve, you guys are going to take away a lot from this. Grab a notepad. It's going to be a jam-packed event. And I'm just going to go into my screen share. You guys can still see our pretty faces down here, but let's just jump right in and take a second to say hello to Mrs. Kazi right here. She's going to be the brains of this whole operation. She's right there. Let's jump right in. Okay, guys. So you're looking at the screen, Master Davinci Resolve Node Tree, and let's just jump into the agenda and see what we got going on. Okay. So November, that's clever. I love that. What's up, Gabi? Let's go. Okay, so the agenda is simple. I'm going to start off telling you a little bit about myself. You know, I don't like to make any assumptions when we're doing these lives or anything like that, that maybe you guys know me, maybe you guys don't, but we'll do a quick little blurb about who I am. Then we're going to jump into the actual live training section. Afterwards, we're going to talk about my masterclass, something you guys ask about all the time. And I'm going to take you through and just, you know, answer some of your guys' questions. Then we're going to jump into my personal favorite, you know, part of this entire training, which is Q&A, all the questions that are going to come from you guys. We're going to take live questions. So you guys are going to just type in whatever your pain point is, whatever problem you're having with certain things, and you're going to get tailor-made answers. Super excited about that. So before we even jump in, let's just take a moment and talk about why learn color grading, right? So I just broke it down into bullet points so it makes a lot of sense when you see it. So why learn color grading? The first, you know, bit is it sets you apart in a highly competitive market, right? How many of us experience this, that this market is very, very competitive? I mean, I can hand a camera to my son and he can go out there, start making stuff, put it on Vimeo. All of a sudden he's a filmmaker, but that can't happen. You can't put me in a programmer's seat and just, you know, tell me, hey, start coding something. I can't do that. So it is a very highly competitive market. So how do you set yourself apart? Color grading can do that. Make your work look and feel big budget. So that is a massive one, right? Like, I mean, anybody can shoot, but not a lot of people can make their things look like high-end commercials or Hollywood movies or anything like that. So this can help you do that. Easiest way to charge more, and that is, you know, if your stuff is going to look big budget, then it's really easy for you that if you were charging $1,500 before, now you can charge $2,500. So that is the truth. That is just known. Then moving on to another point, which is almost every camera shoots in log. So, you know, let's go through the list, right? These are the usual suspects, but you guys can fill in the blanks. Like there's so many more cameras, but you know, you talk about DJI, Canon, Blackmagic Design, even $1,000 Blackmagic Pocket 4K, $1,200 or $1,300 shooting in RAW, you know, Panasonic cameras, Sony cameras, every camera is shooting in RAW. You need to know what to do with it. And that is the leg up that you'll have on everybody else. Like anybody that can get a camera for Christmas and goes out there and shoots and is not a filmmaker or not a colorist, and for you to come in and have that, you know, advantage over them. Okay. And now let's quickly touch on who should learn color grading, right? So that's another thing that we should talk about. Who should learn color grading? Cinematographers. That is sort of like the go-to, right? Because I went to school for cinematography and editing, and it was just like the next thing. Like I was shooting stuff, it wasn't looking right. Why isn't it looking right? You know, it just made me go down that rabbit hole. And then, you know, I learned color grading, and that was the missing piece. Videographers. Think about predators, you know, producers, editors, like people that are just out there doing it all. They're shooting their stuff, they bring it back, they cut it. Color grading would be that thing that's gonna, you know, take your game up a notch. Editors, I always tell people that, hey, always have an additional skill. So if you are an editor, you're already cutting stuff, you're already in the post-production room, adding that extra skill, color grading, and have been known for that is really like that leeway to kind of get in there. That's what happened to me. I was MPEG, I was part of Motion Pictures Editors Guild, I was editing a lot, and then started experimenting, doing some color grading on my own. And then they were like, hey, what are you doing? Like, this looks so good, blah, blah, blah. What is it? I educated my manager at the time and then started getting a lot of work through that. And then once the word gets out, you know, it's game over. For directors, you know, it can really help you. You don't have to become a full-on colorist and get paid, you know, top dollar, but just even knowing a little bit about color grading, you can bring your images in and try to create like a a conversation. You can start a dialogue. You can just throw on a look or whatever, and then have that dialogue with your cinematographer, with your, whoever, and just be like, this is the direction that I want to go in. So it's helpful. And ultimately, anybody, like all the modern filmmakers, right? Even if you think about somebody like Robert Rodriguez, who shoots his stuff, composes his stuff, like, directs his stuff, like all that stuff, even acts in his stuff. So like modern day filmmaker is pretty much a jack of all trades. So for you to have that additional skill will help you big time. Okay, so now let's just jump into quickly who I am. I'm a professional colorist in LA. I run a virtual studio where I work with colorists around the world. And here's, a clientele, like people that, or companies I've worked with: Toyota, Vizio, P&G, Similac, Speedo, Queen Mary, Hyundai, Intel. I mean, the list goes on. And I'm telling you, stuff that you learn in school, stuff that you can even learn online, whatever, is one thing. But when you work on big jobs, high stakes, like the kind of experience you can get from it is just next level. And that's my whole game, right? Zero scarcity. And what I want to do is I want to just take all the wins, distill it into a freaking jug, and then give you that. Like, just go out there and blow up. That's my whole point when I'm teaching something. I'm not holding anything back. This is the numbers from last year. So as a freelance colorist working around 110, 120 days, I pulled like $234,000. And guys, you guys know that's a lot of money as a filmmaker, right? I mean, you could be a director and not be making that much money unless you're, working for Warner Brothers or something like that. That's a lot of money, especially making it 110 days, because color grading is so new, it's so fresh, that it's a wild, wild west out there. Everybody's kind of just figuring it out. So even being part of MPEG, like a senior editor role, I was making the same or more as a beginner colorist when I first started out. So let that sink in. My day rate as an editor, senior editor, was the same, or I was making more money as a beginner colorist. So that's what I'm talking about. Now I make much more than that. So there's a lot of room to grow in this field. And that's a little bit about me. Now we're just going to dive right in, jump in, and see what we got going on. Somebody else is saying like no audio, but guys, can you hear me? Everything is good, right? Like, let's just keep, all right, let's keep rolling. But so now let's just jump into the training overview. And like I said before, what I was going to do is I was just going to do one or the other. I was either going to like tell you all about different types of nodes in Davinci Resolve, or I was going to build a one-size-fits-all Kazi's signature node tree that I use on every single major job, whether it's short film, trailer, music video, commercial, documentaries. This is like the basis of my node tree that I use on every shot, on every project. So it was one or the other, but then I optimize my entire training to a point where I can squeeze both of these in. And I think you can't have one without the other. So it's going to make a lot of sense for us to kind of go through and touch base on everything that you need to know about nodes in Davinci Resolve first. Then we'll jump into mastering a node tree inside Davinci Resolve that's going to give you that leg up that I'm talking about. So guys, that said, we're jumping right in. Get super pumped, grab a notepad, and just let's do this, okay? So different types of nodes. First of all, I'm going to list all the different types, then I'm going to start attacking each one. So we got serial node. That's like the first node. You go under a color page, you see a node, and when you create a new node, that is a serial node. Think of a serial node. I'm going to explain everything once I break this down. Then we have a layer mixer. That's a different type of node. Then we have a parallel mixer. And I'm only talking about the most common nodes. I'm talking about the practical nodes that you're going to be using. I'm not going to bring in any extra nodes that are one-off sort of things, okay? Because this is a live training. I can only keep everybody's attention for so long, and I want to talk about things that are going to be beneficial to you right after this training. So you got a key mixer, you got outside node, you got a shared node, and then you got a timeline node. Now let's deep dive. We're going to start off with our serial node. This is the most common type of node, same as a layer or a track inside Premiere Pro. Let's move over to our Davinci Resolve color page. The first node that you see, this is your serial node. So let's go ahead and name it. I'm going to call it exposure. Okay. And here, what we can do is just give it a little bit of contrast, something like that. We're going to leave it right here. I'm going to go ahead and hit Option S to create another serial node. And I'm going to call this balance. So let's give it some juice. I'm going to add some saturation right here. And now let's take out some of this magenta, okay, by using our gamma. So I'm going to go in the opposite direction to kind of get that out as much as possible. Even something like that, it's looking much better. So if I do undo that and then redo, you can see how much of a difference we made. I'm going to leave it somewhere around here. And if we do before and after, we made quite a bit of progress in this one particular node. So again, look at these as in Premiere Pro, you would have tracks. If I turn this off, turn this off. So you will start off with making basic exposure adjustments. Then you will go and add saturation and balance out your image. Serial nodes inside Davinci Resolve work very similarly. Now let's check out the next type of node. Now let's move on to a layer mixer, generally used to isolate selected parts of the frame using qualifiers. Another use, add composite mode to create effects such as bleach bypass. Let's put it to practice. So we're back in Resolve. I'm going to create another serial node. I'm going to put it right here. And now I'm going to right click, go under add node, and I'm going to say, give me a layer mixer. Okay. And this little icon tells you that you're using a layer mixer. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the bottom layer, because the way the layer mixer works, as confusing as it's going to sound, whatever is at the bottom is actually on top. So you will understand what I'm talking about. Now we're inside layer mixer. I'm going to go ahead and select my qualifier and go ahead, pick my grass. So let's hit Shift H so we can see what we're grabbing. So I'm going to go ahead and grab all of this. Not too much. I don't want to grab his hands. So something like that. And now I'm going to go under my denoise and just denoise it a little bit, give it a little bit of blur, something like that. And now I'm going to hit Shift H again so we can come out of there. And basically what we did is that we said, hey, node 3, do not touch anything that we've selected here, but then change everything else. Feel free to, okay? So what I'm going to do here now is I want my whites to look really clean. Right now, there's a lot of magenta and weird discoloration that's going on, right? So I can just go in here, take the saturation, and like really bring it down. So now everything is looking good. The problem is, look at what's happening to my red. T and this 1 here, that is also losing its color. And that is not something that I want, okay? Everything else is looking good. Everything else is looking great. I just don't like these. So how can we fix that? I can come down here, right click, create another layer mixer. And this time I can go and select red. I can also go under color, presets, and just choose 6 vector red. And as soon as I do that, boom. Now, if I turn this on and off, you'll see I'm getting my red color back, and we still got the perfect whites. And now we have our grass selected. So what can we do here? I can go under my offset, make that grass really green. Like, it's up to me what I want to do with it. I mean, just look at it. I'm taking it places, okay? I can also go ahead and give it a little bit of contrast to like really make it pop, not too much because it's going to look fake. I can use my pivot to kind of bring it up, or, you know, something like that, and like really accentuate that. I can go back under my whites that I was working on, and I can do a similar thing where I can just like really give it a pop and then use my pivot to like pop it out, something like that. And just look at the kind of changes we're making and how easily we're making these changes. And obviously you got to be a little bit careful because you were seeing that edge right there. So you want to make sure that you blend that in. So one way to do that is blur can help you quite a bit with that. So see, like now everything is blended and it looks much better. It's way cleaner. So understanding that could be a huge help. Now I'm going to go under my reds, like for the T. And again, in my offset, I'm going to try to pull that up. And again, I can even bring that up so my red is not so muted, something like that. And if I do before and after, it's making a pretty big difference. So if I take these 3 and turn them on and off, you can see the amount of difference we made. And majority of the grades that you see, a lot of the grading comes from layer mixer, okay? Because this is where you really get to isolate things and try to shape them the way you want it, okay? So this is an extreme example. I wouldn't push it this far for a final grade, but this is just to kind of drive the point home, the power of a layer mixer inside DaVinci Resolve. Now, let's look at another example where you would use the bleach bypass effect using the layer mixer. So in this example, I'm just going to go ahead and give my image a little bit of contrast, not too much, okay? So maybe something like that. I'm going to leave it here for now. I'm going to go ahead and hit Option S to create a new serial node, and then I'm going to right click here and create a layer mixer. This time, what we're going to do is we're going to right click over here. We're going to go under composite modes and we're going to select overlay. And this is what I mean. Just look at what it does. If I turn these on and off, it's giving us this silverish film look. And that is the beginning of the bleach bypass, but we're not there yet. Now I'm going to click on 2 and I'm going to go under my saturation and I'm going to kill my saturation all the way. So look at this, okay? Even after I killed my saturation all the way, it didn't desaturate my image to black and white. And this is what's creating that silverish quality in the highlights, and that's the bleach bypass effect. Now we can go back in our saturation and kind of split the difference, keep it somewhere around here. This effect, particular effect in the post-production world, is called bleach bypass, and you can create it simply by using a layer mixer with the technique I just showed you. Now let's move on to our next type of node inside DaVinci Resolve. Let's check out the definition for parallel mixer. Generally used to blend in multiple corrections by using windows or qualifiers. Let's put it to practice. So we're back in our Resolve. I'm gonna go ahead and hit Option S to create another serial node. This time I'm gonna right click, go under Add Node, and we're gonna say Parallel Node. Okay, and the icons are a little different for layer and for parallel. So memorize these, they're gonna help you a lot. Now I'm gonna click on my node number 7, and here what I'm gonna do, this is a common practice where you would go create a window. And in this case, I'm just gonna select my ball right here, give it a little bit of softness. I'm gonna go under my custom curves. I'm gonna make sure that editable splines is checked. I'm gonna click right here and just pop it up a little bit. So if I do before and after, right, we're giving it quite a bit of pop. And now I'm going to go under my tracker module. I'm going to track it back. I'm going to track it forward. And it's just this easy in Resolve to track things. And it does a great job, okay? It's latching on. I'm going to go under my node 8. And here, I'm going to do a traditional vignette. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's make this bigger. And you know what I want to do is let's stretch it out and shape it. So something like this. And I'm going to go and give it a lot of softness. Okay, something like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and invert it. So we select everything outside of that. And if I hit Shift H, you can see that. We're isolating this. We're selecting everything outside of that. I'm going to go back into my curves. This time, I'm going to make sure to turn off editable splines. I'm going to select it from the middle. And I'm going to pull it down a little bit, not too much, okay? I don't want it to look unrealistic. I am trying to exaggerate things so you guys can really see what is going on. But subtlety is the name of the game when it comes to color grading. So now we did that. This is one of the uses of the parallel mixer. So we are blending these in instead of isolating, which is what the layer mixer was doing, okay? So that is the main difference. Anytime you're using Windows and you want to blend things in, use parallel mixer. Anytime you want to isolate elements, use layer mixer. Now let's move on to our next node. Another very useful node inside Resolve is called outside node. Inverts the selection of the previous node, windows, qualifiers, whatever have you. It's a lot easier when you see it in practice. So say we created this window action right here, okay? So this is what we had. If I right click here, go under add node and do outside, it will create, if I hit Shift H, now it is selecting inside of that window that we created, okay? So basically it's inverting it, but the most beautiful thing is that you see this key information that is sending through. It is creating a parent-child relationship, okay? Which means that if I take this and move it over here, look what it does in this node. It switches that, it moves it over there. So I don't have to independently move windows around. It is taking care of that based on this parent node, if you will. Okay. So now I can go in here and do the opposite. And this is, again, a common practice. What you will do is you will bring everything down around your subject, then you will invert it or create an outside node, and you will just say, hey, give it a little bit more love. So now look what we're doing. If I take these two and turn them on and off, look how we're switching the emphasis and really putting a lot of light and love on our main subject, which is this ball. Okay. And that was easily created. And like I said, the beautiful thing about this particular node is that it has a parent-child relationship. So wherever I move this goes with it. If I turn it on and off, you see what's going on. Okay. So in this case, we want to go back here, keep it right here. And these changes were made in the parallel mixer. So you can see that, right? So we popped out the ball, tracked it. We created a general vignette, and then we created an outside node and popped our subject out. Now let's move on to our next node. Next up is Key Mixer. It helps combine multiple keys to apply a global correction through a single node. Let's put it to practice. I'm going to click right here and then hit Option S to create a new serial node. Okay, and let's leave it right there. Let's click right here and say, give us a key mixer. Okay, this is what it looks like. And basically what I want to do with this is I want to go under my node number 4, which is selecting our grass, take the key output of that and send it into the top input in our key mixer. Then I want to go take our T and then the digit 1 right here when we selected our reds and send it to the bottom input of our key mixer. Then I'm going to take the output of my key mixer, send it into our new serial node. And now what's happening is that if I hit Shift H, it's only selecting the reds and the grass as we instructed. So say now the director comes in and goes, hey, I want to warm up the grass as well as the T, but leave the hand and everything else as is. So you can just come in here under offset and we can do something like this. And now if I do before and after, you can see the difference. Let's exaggerate it for the example's sake. And now if I do before and after, you can see the difference that we're making, and we're affecting the T and the digit 1 and the grass all together just by using a single node. So again, like I said, you can take multiple qualifiers or nodes, feed it into a single node where you can make global corrections. Let's move on to our next node. So the shared node is fairly new to Davinci Resolve, and basically it's a dynamic node across selected clips. Changes made to a single clip ripples across all clips that use the shared node. Again, let's put it to practice. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new node, bring it down here, right click on it, and click on Save as Shared Node. Now there's this arrow going forward and back, and right now there's a little lock icon there, meaning that it is locked. You can't make any changes. If we do anything to it, nothing happens. It keeps coming back, right? So let's right click on it and uncheck that. So now we can affect whatever it is that we want to do. But the beautiful thing about it is that now I'm going to go ahead and Command C, copy this node, click right here, create a new node and copy paste it, the same shared node. And I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to create a new serial and then I'm going to copy paste that shared node. So if we go back to where we first added that node, and let's just say the director comes in and goes, hey, let's just cool off this image a little bit. It's too warm, whatever, right? We can go under our temp. We can cool it off, something like that. Let's add a little bit of green, something like that, right? Just for, again, our example's sake. So look at what's happening to the thumbnails down here. I'm going to turn it on and off. So right now it's on. If I turn it off, look at this. It's affecting all 3 clips at once. And now if I go here and turn it on and off, and look, it was applied to this clip as well. it was applied to this clip as well. So I could be in any clip now. I could be here and then I go, you know what? I changed my mind. Let's warm it up. So now I go here, I warm it up and, take it somewhere around here. Again, that change is reflected across all the clips that were using that shared node. So very useful, especially for like the last pass where you're just going through and making global corrections. You can do that by using a shared node. And then once you're done making changes, you can right click and say lock node. And now you can't really make any further changes. Let's move on to our final, most commonly used node. Finally, we have a timeline node, and it's pretty self-explanatory, but corrections in this node affect everything on the timeline. So let's head on over again to our color page, and these two little dots, so this one means that we're in our clip mode, okay? And if I click right here, now we're in our timeline mode. So you can even select that clip or timeline. So essentially there's nothing here at first, but if you hit Option S, you can create a serial node here. And it's going to have a very similar effect to share node, but still very different. And I will explain in a second. So let's say, again, we want to warm this up. Okay, so we go ahead and we warm this up. You will see that these changes will be in effect for all our clips right here. If I turn this on and off, we can see that it's making a change to all our clips on the timeline. But the difference between a shared node and a timeline node is that whatever you do here will affect everything. And I mean, if you have graphics, if you have transitions, they will all be affected by the timeline node. Whereas if you were to use a shared node, that is still restricted to the clips and not necessarily graphics or anything else that you might have on top in your timeline. So one key difference, but still a huge time saver, very beneficial. And you will, in an ideal world, use it for something like this. So I'll go in here and I'll take my low soft and I'll put it somewhere around here, and I'll take my high soft and put it around here. And what that does is that it gives us some leeway on the bottom and the top. So we will always be broadcast safe. Then I can just go in here, keep doing my stuff. Let's say I create a new node, and in here, let's try to push it. I'm trying to do something where I can make sense of what I'm trying to say. So let's say we go something like that. And then for the bottom, we go something like this, okay? Now, the beautiful thing about what we did here is that if I turn it on and off, look at this. If we didn't have this, everything will be clipping, okay? But because we created this little safety net, it takes care of that on the top end. So we can, I wouldn't push it too far because then you'll get like unnatural results. But something like that is perfect. Like look at before and after. So that would be my safety node, broadcast safe node, whatever have you. And then that will make sure that we're always covered. Now on to my favorite part of this entire process. Now we're moving on to the second part of this training, which is mastering Davinci Resolve node tree. Okay, why is it important? You probably have heard that Davinci Resolve is 30-bit float, which means you can do anything in this node and then fix it later. That is half true, half false. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So let's say in this node, we give our image a little bit of contrast, okay? Now we go back to this node, we grab our lift and we just kind of crush it, something like that. Like I'm gonna give you an extreme example. Now if I do before and after, look at the effect it's making, right? Let's create a new version. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit E to basically detach my node from here and put it after our contrast change. And now you're going to see the difference it's making. So when this node was before the contrast node, it looked like this. When it was after the contrast node, it looks like this. So you see the difference? Just look at the scopes as well. And that's why it is important to master how to properly set up your node tree inside Davinci Resolve, and that's what we're doing right now. I'm gonna go ahead and build out my node tree and commentate what is happening so it makes sense, and then it will all come together at the end, okay? We're gonna make the changes once the node tree is finished. So first node is gonna be our noise reduction. Then I'm gonna create another node, and I'm gonna pull this down. This one is gonna be our primaries. Then let's create another node. This one is going to be our pop. Let's just call it pop. Another node. This one is going to be our LUT or look. So let's just call it look. And then I'm going to create another node. I'm going to pull this down here and let's call it HSL curves. So this one is going to be our push and pull. And then I'm going to create another node. And then these are going to be our vectors. Okay, so I'm going to call this red, and then I'm gonna hit Option P for a parallel node, and then this one I'm gonna call it green, and then I'm gonna create another one, and I'm gonna call this one, let's call it magenta. You can go ahead and create it for all 6 because there are 6 vectors. If I go under color, presets, so this one is our red. Then I go back in here, presets, this one is our green. And then I go into my magenta again, go under presets, and this one is going to be our magenta. Now this could be green or yellow. We'll play it off. You know what? Let's just call it yellow. It will make more sense. Let's go back into our color. Again, presets, and then this will be our yellow. Now if I click right here, we'll create another node. This one will be our look adjustment. I'm gonna create another node, and then this one is going to be our skin. Obviously, there's no skin in this particular example, but bear with me. Like I said, it's gonna make sense at the end. We're gonna create another parallel node, and then this one I'm gonna call eyes. And basically this one is going to be used for anything granular. If I want to just grab this particular part or something like that. But ultimately, if we have a skin, then this one will be used for eyes. Now I'm going to go ahead and create another node right here. And I'm going to call this one my sky. I'm going to go ahead, create another parallel. And again, if it's getting confusing, don't worry about it. Once I start making changes to the image, it's all going to make sense, okay? And then this one is going to be called left, and I'm going to create another parallel. This one is going to be called right, and I'm going to create another parallel. This one will be called bottom. Okay, so that is that. Now I'm going to click right here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, this section is going to be for our OFX. So for our, let's say this one is for our glow. Then I'm going to create another parallel, and node tree is getting pretty big. So let's go ahead and make it a little bit smaller so we have more room. This one is going to be my, let's call it sharpening. And let's create another one. This could be our grain. So this is how all that is going to be set up. And then here we will have our trims. And trims are pretty much like, say, if this node could be a director's node, the director comes in and tells me to make changes, do something particular, we can make that change there. And then these are going to be parallel as well. And then this one could be a DP, like a cinematographer's node. And then I'm going to do another one. And then this could be colorist node, or you can just call it global adjustment. And then that's our global adjustment. And then I'm going to do a last one. And this is going to be our trim. So basically this could be if we're doing a Rec 709 to HDR conversion, or if we're doing Rec 709 to DCI P3, that can happen in this node. Okay, so this is how everything is set up. And again, I know for a fact that you guys are just looking at it going, what the hell is going on? So let's figure this out, okay? Now for these nodes that we created, these 4 right here, let's fix this. So I'm gonna go on my sky node. I'm gonna go under my windows. I'm gonna click on this gradient, and I'm gonna make my screen smaller so we can see what's happening. I'm gonna put it right here. I'm gonna hit Shift H so we can see what we're affecting. And I'm just going to do this, okay? So this is our sky node. Got it? Now I'm going to come to my left. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to do one of these numbers and I'm going to put it right here. And then this is going to be our left. I'm going to go back here, create another one, reverse it because this is supposed to be our right. So I'm going to go right here, put it over here, and then that's going to be affecting only our right area. I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to create another gradient. I'm going to pull it up like such, and I'm going to bring it over here and do this. And then this is going to be our bottom. Okay. So we're not making any changes yet. This is just how it is for now. Okay. So if you're getting confused and probably wondering, what are you doing, Kazi? What is really going on? Don't worry about it because this is the important part. So once you have the structure or the foundation laid out, what I need you to do is go under your galleries, click right here, go under your power grade, and in your power grade, yours is not going to have these. So in your power grade, go ahead, right click and say grab still, and then call this base. Okay. So what this means is that now you've saved this for future projects because power grades are available throughout all your projects inside the same database. Meaning if I were to get rid of this now and just imagine you're working on a completely different project, you can go back to your base and just right click and say apply grade and boom. Just by doing so, you brought in that grade ready to go. This is why we didn't make any changes to our base grade when we were building our node tree. So now let's say this is the project we're working on. Let's start making some changes. You're going to see the power of having this structured node tree pre-built when you're jumping on projects to projects. You saw how long it took us to build this, right? But when you're working on the next project, and if you have it saved in your power grade, it's going to be just one click and you're there. So now let's do a few things, right? So I can go under my LUTs, under ARI. This is provided by ARI Alexa or ARI, and it's inside Resolve for free. So it's not like something that I downloaded. It comes with Resolve. So this shot is from ARI Alexa. So we just applied the ARI Alexa Rec 709 LUT, and this is what our image looks like. Now I can go under my primaries and make certain adjustments. Let's say I, take out that so much magenta that was in the glove and say this is looking kind of nice. I go under my pop. I'm going to click right here. Editable splines is selected. I'm going to click right here. I'm going to raise it up to like really give my image some juice. And I'm going to click right here and just kind of, add some contrast, right? So something like this. So this is where we are now. Let me just click right here and give it a little bit more pop. Maybe something like this. And then let's see if we want to make any changes here. So I can take my lift and pull it down just a little bit, not too much. I can take my gain, raise it just a little bit, and gamma, keep the gamma somewhere around here. Okay, so this is where we are. Now look at the beauty of this, how we're building this and why it was important to put the nodes in the right order. Now I can go under my HSL curves, and what I can do here is that I can go under my hue versus saturation, and this is still falling under the magenta side, right? So I can just click on this magenta and take my saturation and pull it all the way down, like down to something like this. And it will be hard to see, but trust me, we're taking that little artifacting or discoloration, whatever you want to call it, we're taking that down, but let's take it one step further. Now I'm going to click on my blue and I'm going to do the same thing. So between the two of these changes, we were able to pull out quite a bit of that magenta, and you will be able to see it. If I punch in here and do before and after, you can see that we're making that change quite a bit. Okay, now we can click on our magenta node, hit Shift H, and see if it's selecting anything. It's not selecting much, not a big deal. I can go under my yellow, which is grabbing my grass, and now I can do all those things that I did previously and like really make my grass come to life, give it that color, push it. And what can we do now? Go under my red and let's try to bring it up a little bit, something like that. And then give it like really push that red to pop it out, and maybe take the lift and bring it down a little bit. So look at how much we're popping it. And again, we don't have to recreate these. These are already made. I'm just going in and making those changes. Okay. Now what we can do is I can come in here, click on the bottom one right here and say, all right, I really want to bring this down and add a lot of depth into my image. So I can basically grab this and start pulling it down, and look what I'm doing. I'm only affecting this area. Remember, we had a window that was only selecting the bottom, and now I'm affecting that, and look at the kind of dimension I'm adding to my image. I can do the same with my right side. Come in here and kind of like really be aggressive with it, pop our image out. Okay. And we can leave this one as is because we have a golf club there, and that's kind of important. And then the top one, we can do a little bit, like we can just bring it down a little bit, not too much, because we have a glove that we don't want to lose. Now, one thing that I didn't add here, which I forgot, which I should add now, is I'm going to create another parallel node. And then this one is going to be called our hero. And the purpose of this one is that you're going to create a circle shape like that, and you're going to just leave it as is. But in this one, it's going to come in handy because I'm going to go in on the ball here and then give it a little bit of feathering, and then turn on my editable splines, click right here, select this, and really pop it open, and just look at what it did to my ball. And now I'm going to go under my tracker, track it back, click right here, track it forward so it latches on, does the job. And guys, you are feeling what I'm putting down, right? Like how much we can change just with quick little steps, and everything is pre-made. We don't have to recreate these windows or anything like that. Once you put in the work, you can reap the benefits forever. Okay. Once again, if you see a little bit of green, like kind of seeping into his glove, that is super easy. You can just go in and you can start cleaning that up, right? We can go under our key and we can see what is causing that. What do we need to do? So maybe, take this up a little bit, and now I got rid of that. Now we're only selecting the green areas, and we took care of it, but it was a simple change. We didn't have to recreate the entire key, feather it out, anything like that. That was already done for us. So this is just an example of like how powerful this node tree can be. Then in the noise reduction, you can just go in here again, click, select this to 1, bring this up to 4.8-ish or 5-ish, unchain this or unlink this, click on the chroma and just type in 6.8, and that usually takes out all the digital noise that you might have in your image. So just look at how easily we were able to create something like that. A lot of the times in my look adjustments, I will come in here and do a similar thing that we did in our pop node, which is just take this and like really, really bring it to life, right? So, I mean, I can just keep it somewhere around here. Let's grab the bottom and see if we really want to just kind of add that drama. It doesn't need to be too much. But if I do before and after, it's up to you which one you like, because this one kind of looks filmic and nice too. So it's totally up to you. But just see how fast and surgical this entire operation was, because we had created our node tree and had stored it. So when the new project came along, we just dropped it in, everything was in the right place, and we just moved along. And now what I'm going to do is, so if you're wondering, why are you not using all of these? Like, why don't you just delete these? You don't want to do that because there are tons of functionalities inside Davinci Resolve that are a specific node number based. So you can have a project with 90 clips or something like that. And if eventually you want to make change to one particular node, you can easily do that and apply it to all 90 clips all at once. And that's why a lot of people use this process. It is also known as like your base node tree, where everything is exactly the same from shot to shot. So it's really easy for you to know where each node is. And especially on my panel, I can just type in 20 and hit node and go to my glow. See, it moved me there. Or if I want to go to look adjustment, I can just hit 10, select node, I go straight there. So when I'm working as a professional colorist, I'm jumping from node to node. I'm using my muscle memory. I know where the pop is. I know where the director's node is, all that. So I hit those numbers, I get there instead of like looking up and seeing where a specific node is. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how powerful it is to build a proper node tree structure inside Davinci Resolve and how efficient it can make you from job to job. You ultimately get the idea. This is what we created live, and then that is what I ended up creating for the actual commercial that I worked on. So, you know, somebody probably listening to this, probably going, man, this is just really blowing my mind. And that's where I've been ending this live training for the last 4 times on the same graphic and same lame like dad joke, which is, you know, told you Resolve is easy. And this is where we, you know, take a second and we talk about there are so many different things that goes into making you a colorist and make you understand what color grading is all about. Everything that you got to see here, learning everything about the nodes, and then also understanding how to build your node tree. This is genuinely, I wish I can just sit here and tell you, that's it, you got it, you're done, like go out there and kill it. That is just the foundation. That is just the starting point. There is so much more than that, which easily leads me into my next point, which everybody keeps asking about, that, hey, I watch your YouTube videos. Some of them make sense. Some of them are over my head. What is the missing piece? And then this is where we dive into talking about, you know, let's just bring up some of the most asked questions, those being, you know, hey, how can I shot match? You know, so I told you about this whole node tree. We built this whole thing out. Now, what happens when I go from one shot to the next? Or another, you know, commonly asked question is like, you know, can I get access to the footage that you're working with? So then when I try to follow your, you know, training or whatever have you, I can like do one-to-one match and like really see where we're going. And then, you know, people ask, can I get a feedback on my work? That's another big one, right? Like, I mean, the fastest way to grow is to ask a professional, what is it that you can change, tinker with, and then just like not waste years of your life doing something that somebody can just give you a quick feedback and you can make that change. So I'm going to jump in and I'm going to talk a little bit about my masterclass, but stay tuned. You guys know the Q&A section is coming up. All that exciting stuff is going to happen, but I want to take a moment and talk to people that have been asking for it forever, okay? And let's just go through what we got going on in the masterclass right now, but there are more modules that I've already added. There's so much more stuff now, but guys, just look at it, okay? So look at this masterclass as the ultimate Bible, like color grading Bible. This is the end all be all, start to finish and everything in between, okay? Just look at how it's laid out, and it's going in a sequential order. You cannot skip one of these and just jump to something else. You're starting from conform, going into like knowing all about your camera that you're using, and then color correction, which is basically the Rec 709, make everything look pretty. Going into shot matching, what does it take to match shots with each other within the same scene, project, whatever have you. Then get into telling a story through the art of color grading, talk about studio setups, what goes into it. You guys know how big I am on the studio setup, so it's not a bad idea to listen to somebody that does this for a living, and then jumping into the freelance bit, because none of that matters. None of this matters. The skills don't matter if you don't know how to sell yourself. You just are going to be looking at people that are way less experienced than you, making a lot more money because they understood this part of it, the business side of it. And then bonus module, and then we have YouTube module. So all my popular YouTube videos end up there. But now I want to do a quick breakdown and kind of just give you an insider you know, scoop of like what this masterclass is about. So a lot of people don't get to see this, okay? So conform is basically the process where you take you know, your footage from Premiere Pro, Avid, Final Cut 10, whatever the editor edited the video in. Conform is the process where you take it out of that NLE, that Premiere Pro, bring it into Resolve, you color it in Resolve, and then you spit it back out to Premiere Pro. So that one way to do it is called round tripping. Another way is bake and blade. And then there's some other ways that I recently added. All of those are covered in here. So I give you project files, I give you course materials. So you basically watch each lesson, each lecture, and then you have project files, exercise files that you go through and like study with me to like figure out what that is. Now, I just want to say one thing. If you've never opened Resolve, this is your first time checking out this training and you are on the fence, you're using Premiere Pro, you don't know the first thing, so you're not sure if this training is for you, let me just tell you right now, this training is for you. This training literally fills in all the blanks. Like I said, this crash course for colorist section right here is going to be the biggest one for people that never opened Resolve before, because this is going to take you from the first thing that you need to do in Resolve when you first open it, all the way to getting familiar with all the main pages like media page, edit page, color page, and then going in to pick up like from here, conform, and then just hit the ground running. So this training is for everybody, but not only for beginners, it's also for intermediate people. And I promise you, regardless of where you are in the world, even advanced people can take advantage, from this particular training. Second module is cameras, because again, every camera under the sun is using a different color science. So you really need to know how to get the most juice out of each camera. Whether you're using Fuji, whether you're using Red, whether you're using Canon, Sony, whatever have you, man, you need to know how to work out each camera's quirk. Alexa adds that little green. It has that green tint that you got to pull out. Same thing with Sony. It like makes everybody's skin look like Hulk. You got to get that out. Red has its own things. Old Red cameras used to have a lot of noise. So you got to learn to work with it, because if you can't fix the noise, it doesn't matter, what your grade is. And nobody will care that you shot something on Red. They will like something else's, work shot on Sony A7S because it's a really good low light camera. And just because you didn't know how to properly, get the most out of your image from your camera, you failed. So it doesn't matter, Red, Alexa, blah, blah, blah. You need to know what you're doing with each camera. So that's what's covered in this module. Then we move on to color correction, my favorite module. I tell everybody that, hey, this is where the rubber meets the road, because 90% of my paycheck for the longest time came from color correction. It wasn't for like, grading music videos, short form, blah, blah, blah. At this level where I am now, I'm fortunate enough to like actually take on gigs that I want to take. So they're more creative. And now I'm like doing more for the art and color grading. But before, most of the paycheck, guys, will always come from color correction. This is going to be the recurring work where they, turn and burn. You're just given a project, you work on it, you get that steady paycheck. It's going to be color correction. So all those things are covered here. How to work with Rec 709 footage, how to work with landscape footage, how to get the best out of just people, so all of that is in here. How to analyze your scopes, how to get proper white balance. I mean, I'm telling you, you might have seen YouTube videos. You might think that you know a lot, but when you go through and look at it and then practice along, it's going to blow your mind. Shot matching is going to be the next one. This is probably like the hidden gem. This is like the biggest thing that I don't even share on my YouTube. Shot matching, because it's not something that I can just share. It's not like a 30-minute thing, a 15-minute video that I can put out and everybody will understand what I'm talking about. So you actually have to deep dive, go through all of this, practice along, because it's very tedious. And that's what separates the amateurs from the pros, okay? So shot matching is going to be that module, probably something that every colorist can benefit from, every filmmaker can benefit from, any videographer. Anybody that dabbles with color grading really needs to understand shot matching, because this is everybody's like, that weak point. Then we're going to move on to probably everybody's favorite, because we want to get into color grading for the color grading. So this is where I take you through, and I'm not going to do some lame, like whatever, this and that. We're going to create real world looks, right? So we're going to go in, we're going to create high-end commercial looks, like whether it's like Adidas look or holiday season, like high key looks, Oakley commercial look. We're going to create looks from, top music videos. So like the poppy look, like in your face, but it looks gorgeous. It looks amazing. How did somebody do that? We're going to be creating those looks in this module. We're going to create Hollywood looks, Hobbs and Shaw, which is the modern day teal and orange, John Wick look, La La Land, Sicario, Atomic Blonde. And then we're going to create some old school looks, like Sin City sort of effects and like the movie 300, all that. I'm going to show you how to properly use film LUTs. You guys know I'm not a big fan of LUTs, but then there's a right and wrong way to use LUTs. So this is exactly what you're going to learn right here. So color grading is a massive one for people because, you can color correct all day long and everything can look cool, but this is what's going to separate you from the rest, right? This is what's going to separate you from the crowd. I mean, look at this shot. This is shot, from my brother from another mother, Filippo. And this is what it's supposed to look like, but look what I created. And when you look at my node tree, you're going to be blown away. There's not much going on, but we were able to make this inherent change, like a look DNA shift that happened, that took place by just doing a very little, but it all feels like it belongs. It doesn't feel like it's fake or something is not feeling right. So that is the fine line, fine balance that you got to learn about color grading is covered in here. Then we're going to jump into the studio module. So many people have questions all the time. This is like the number one thing, right? I can just go talk about politics and the number one question is going to be like, which monitor should I get? Which cable should I get? Which computer should I get? Those kind of questions. So you all know that you want to know all that information. So here I broke it down into different categories. I have like a broke setup, I have a come up setup, I have a baller setup, and then each one is tailor made to like whatever your budget is and wherever you are in your life. And you can just pick and choose, get those things. And then when you're ready to like make upgrades, you can do that. So this has like longevity. And then I'm going to keep adding things to it because obviously technology changes every second. So we have to change with it. So studio setup. Also, I have some PDF and some documents in here that are going to blow your mind. Okay. Like there are things that are going to teach you how to turn your $1,500 consumer TV, OLED TV, into a freaking monster of a grading, monitor. How do you do that? That kind of PDF and all those things are buried in this module that you're going to get access to once you join the masterclass. Finally, I want to talk about the freelance module. And this is the whole reason why I created the masterclass in the first place. That's why freelance is before the colorist, freelance colorist masterclass. I mean, it's like, and look at the amount of videos that I have here. I mean, I just went nuts in this one because, again, like I'm telling you, I know people firsthand that are so talented, and my heart breaks for them because they just don't know how to convert it, how to take their expertise and flip it where they become profitable for themselves, for their families. It's just a win-win for everybody. So it's something that we need to talk about. It's something that we need to discuss in our industry more and more. Why our experienced filmmakers are getting paid less than a junior or a beginner IT guy? Why is this happening? That is because we need to talk about it. We need to discuss these things. So here I'm going to be breaking that down, getting super granular. I'm going to be sharing my invoices that took me from like charging a client $15,000 to like a $35,000 package because I just like packaged it up so nicely. And you're going to have like that PDF to look at, take a screenshot, whatever you want to do with it. You're going to get examples to like how to build a proper demo reel. I'm going to share high-end client strategies, high-end client collaborations, like, how to, set up your offer, like how to provide them with like a quote. All those things are going to be discussed right here. How to be bullish. And everything in this module is not going to be just rah. Everything in this module is going to have like a solid plan, something that you can take and execute right away. Okay. So freelance module, if you skip any other modules, you shouldn't, first of all, but if you do, don't skip this particular one. Okay. I'm telling you. And then the bonus module is where basically anything cool that I do that is one-off and that I just want to add like more value to my people, like my FCM family, I added to this module. That stuff doesn't go on my YouTube because it's just not fair. If I just take everything that's in this masterclass and put it on YouTube, then I'm not being loyal to you guys. Okay. So I have stuff that is very niche, like how to fix the gamma shift, how to create the clean white look, which is this look, which is like really high-end look and is just asked, the most asked look in the commercial world. How do you create that? How to get the best image out of your Sony 8-bit footage shot on A6500. All that stuff is covered here. How to work remotely. Again, I'm going to give you practical real life examples. All of that is covered here. And this module gets juiced every day. I think I already have more videos in here. YouTube is that module where people keep asking me, can you send us a link to that, footage so we can practice along? This is where I bring in all my heavy hitters from YouTube and the footage that I have access to. I bring it in here. I give you access to the footage. You can watch the video, practice along. All that good stuff happens here. So it's very exciting. I added a 10th module that I didn't even add to my deck here, which is the professional work module, where you actually get a full-on project file along with the footage for commercials and music videos, that professional music videos and commercials I worked on. You get footage, you get your hands on that footage, that caliber footage, you get your hands on the note tree and my whole grade. You get to break it down for yourself, and it is accompanied by an actual video that takes you through it and tells you what's going on there. So all that is included in the 10th module that's not even here. So as of now, we're on 10 modules. As of now, we're over 28 hours worth of content, not 25. In this masterclass, we have over 167 videos, way more than that now in our masterclass. And let's take a moment and very quickly, I just want to kind of go through, like, somebody who's watching this be like, well, I'm getting so much value from your free trainings, free material. There are so many other people putting out content. So why, your freelance colorist masterclass? And let's just go through right down the list. Why do we go to school? We go to school in this day and age, we can get a lot of information out there, right? But we go to school because we want that one extra thing. We want to find that one extra thing that's going to give us that leg up. But the problem is the school system in the United States, at least a film school, is going to cost you somewhere around $60,000 or more, right? So, this is today in 2020, it's going to cost you somewhere around there. Forget about when you start paying it back. It's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm going to be paying my loans until I'm 38 or 39, something like that. Time wasted. You're already taught old information. Like, they're not printing books like every day. So they're already, sharing information that's decades old. Not to mention, you just spent 4 years learning decade-old information. What do you think? How is that going to help you? New cameras are coming out every day. New computers are coming out every day. Technology is changing every day. Resolve 17 just dropped today. So if you're going to school and they still are on Resolve 12, that's not necessarily helping you with, what's going on today, currently. So that is not to take a shot on anyone, who can teach, but this is my personal experience. Like, my teachers, unfortunately, most of them did not have like a real world experience. They try something, it didn't really work out, they became teachers. So it's a little different, okay? Like, in my case, I'm a practitioner. I'm doing this for a living. I'm picking and choosing the projects that I want to work on. And then I'm bringing all of that in, all my real world expertise, and just handing it off to you and then seeing you just blow up. So another thing is on-site boot camps. Now, these are cool. I'm all for on-site boot camps because, again, they're sort of targeted, but limited access, right? So if you're in India, if you're in South Africa, if you're in like a small town, even in the United States, these heavy hitters are not going to set up their shop there and have you come out, because you won't be able to afford these boot camps because they're expensive. They're starting out at $1,200 and more in the United States. It's a 2-day boot camp usually. And ultimately it's a group setting. So it's still like a one size fits all mentality. Like, you're not really getting tailor-made information that you need. And, you walk away with like a notebook full of notes. That's just the simple truth. You're not getting lifetime access to material that you can just go refer back to, things like that. So I'm going to take a second, and usually, I can take you guys through and spell this out for you. But what I want to really show you instead is I'm going to play this for you, and hopefully you guys can hear it. Just want to share what people around the world are saying about FCM. Okay. So people that are part of this masterclass. Let's see if you guys can hear it.
I'm pretty sure that everybody has that dream of being their own boss. This course is going to help you do that. I personally was able to quit my job and go full-time freelance because I had the confidence and I had the skills.
Kazi has a way of getting to the heart of the matter without wasting time on things that aren't important. His course is designed for humans, helping you understand the why behind the how and teach you principles that will guide you as a colorist.
Un corso in cui Kazi ti guida attraverso ogni step che ti consente di poter diventare un colorist professionista che lavora a tutti gli effetti. Il materiale contenuto in FCM lo rende già di per sé un corso senza eguali.
The biggest benefit to the course in my mind is the access that you get to Kazi. Every single week we're submitting grades and Kazi is taking the time to review every single one. That in itself is worth the cost of the master class.
Kazi's freelance colorist master course is something that I feel that anyone at any level can gain something from. As a colorist, I'm always looking for ways to improve my skills. There's loads of information on the internet, but I haven't come across anything quite like Aussie's course.
The best thing about this course is that it is the only way to not spend years reading manuals and trial and erroring it and getting bad advice. It's the only way to not go and spend $50,000 a year at film school, which, by the way, I've also done that.
Anfangs war ich skeptisch, ob das nicht herausgeworfenes Geld war. Aber meine Erwartungen wurden bei manchen übertroffen. Die Lektionen sind einfach und verständlich aufgebaut. Man merkt, dass Meister Kasi uns als Schüler die Hand nimmt. Bei Fragen, Anregungen steht er immer zur Verfügung und schickt zeitnah eine Sprachnachricht zurück.
I've been teaching myself how to be a filmmaker for years, just going on YouTube, watching tutorials, asking questions. What I learned in even just an hour of working with Kazi's masterclass is worth more than years of just trying to figure it out on my own.
Now, all right, I'm going to turn this off. Like, this echo is weird. But guys, this is what I wanted to share just a little bit, and kind of give you an idea of like the kind of stuff that's going down, right? Like I want to share a little bit more here too. Let me actually just do this. So there's one thing that we've been doing that you guys are familiar with. If you're on my YouTube or if you're on my Instagram, then you know that a lot of people see the FCM challenge hashtag and they always ask every Monday, I feature the winners or my top picks from FCM challenge. So people are like, what is this? Like, what is going on? How do I become a part of it? Well, you need to be part of the family. You have to be part of the masterclass to get access to this mastermind group. And then what happens in that mastermind group is what Brian was saying, where we hold weekly competitions and everybody is submitting their looks. And this season, I'm picking which looks they should create. So it's like apples to apples. And then I get to, judge them and then give them my feedback. And the growth is just out of control. Okay, you guys see the results that we're getting and the kind of stuff that these guys are creating. Also, it opens you up for professional feedback. So you can reach out to me once you become part of the mastermind group. Professional feedback is something that I used to do like last year when I was starting out in this world, but it's not like I'm too big for anybody, but I just genuinely ran out of time in the day because we have over 2,000 members in FCM, and just giving them support and be, as available as possible for my customers, if you will, or my members or my family, FCM family. Like I cannot take out extra time to now answer to anybody's DM about their professional work. So that's something that I've done in the first 2-3 months. And then after that, it became really hard. But if you get access to the FCM, once you become part of the, club, once you become part of the family, then you get access to me directly. And we can talk about those things, send me your work. I mean, Gabi recently did that, sent me his reel, asked me his 2 cents, which just reminded me that I got to go and look at the new version of his reel, which I'm going to do after this. But then we have competition prizes that we hold every 3 months. So the first prize is $1,000 cash. Second prize is $300. And then the final prize is $100. So there's all these prizes that you get. So imagine you paying whatever the price is for the masterclass, you're winning this much. So trust me, like at the end of the day, everybody's winning. Networking opportunities are out of control, right? There's so many people that are already connecting and working with each other. People already have like their own FCM group outside of like the mastermind group where they talk and share each other's posts and things like that. So the culture is just second to none. It's a grading forum on steroids. The reason why I say this is because here we're all bred from the same DNA where it's practical information. You ask a question, you get an answer. It's not like other forums where everybody is like, stroking their ego and giving you 100 pages long PDF documents to read through. None of that. It's just like, boom, dude, you asked for this, you got this. You're asking for a specific monitor. I'm going to send you a link, B&H link, where you can go and buy a specific monitor, that kind of thing. So that's what we have here. Job Shadow, again, like I said, the new module that we added, which is exactly what this is. Like you get to see, you get to pick apart my brain and see like how I created an entire node tree and attacked a certain job. So let's get to the actual elephant in the room. Let's talk about how much does it cost. So let's just quickly revisit. Like school system is costing you somewhere around $60,000. Online boot camp is $1,200. 2 days worth of information, a couple of notes, on your notebook. Freelance Colorist Masterclass is going to be $997. So you can get the masterclass for $997. Comes with all of that. Like mastermind group alone, outside of FCM, people, the clients that I have that I do one-on-one and Zoom calls with, like that's $1,500 a month. okay, retainer. So you're getting pretty much that, built in to this master class as a package once you buy it. During our Q&A section, look at this. During our Q&A section, you're going to have an opportunity to pick up this masterclass for $497. You guys know if you go online right now and look at the price, it's $997. So you're going to get a $500 coupon, which is going to be limited only during this Q&A section. Okay, so I'm going to pop it open here. I'm going to pop the coupon open here, and you guys should be able to see it now. It's right there. You see it right under my screen. Join Freelance Colorist Masterclass. It's a green button. So you can go hit that button, sign up right now for this $497 price. This will not be available after the Q&A. The price is $997, and eventually, very soon, in 1 week, is going to go higher than that. So guys, that said, let me know if you're still with me. Let's jump into the Q&A section. And what do you got?
We got lots of questions.
All right, hit me.
All right, the most voted question. And guys, you have time to drop in questions.
Yeah, keep dropping in questions. There's a ask a question section. So just go in there, keep dropping questions. Again, the link is right here, call to action link, where you can go and take advantage of this coupon and get the class for $497. Only available during the Q&A. Hit me.
All right. Could you please explain how it's happening? Video color grading and DaVinci Resolve with VFX 3D animations like flame, fog, etc. It was made in like After Effects. Should it be XML, Bacon Blade, or something else?
All right, so most of the time, I'm just going to take this question as like you're talking about when we're working with VFX, like something that has VFX, how do you attack it? So one of the ways that I will highly recommend doing it in would be to actually grade the plate, actually grade the part that needs to be graded and send them that graded bit. Because a lot of the times in VFX, when they're doing whatever, background, like mats, whatever they're dropping, once they drop in matte painting or whatever have you, they need to match the grain. They need to match a lot of the things. And then once you give them the graded version, it's really easy for them to kind of get it in that ballpark, in that world. So when they send out an alpha, later down the road, you bring it in and you drop it on your end in Resolve. Everything works smoothly. There are no color shifts or anything like that. So that is one of the many ways to go attack it, but that's my preferred way. Let's go.
All right, before we get into the questions, we have so many new FCM members already.
Let's
freaking
welcome
go. Kent, Darnell, Brian, Skipper, Kevin.
Let's go, guys.
Josh. They're still coming in.
Let's go. Super
welcome,
pumped.
Everybody.
Love you guys.
All right. Have you seen the new features of DaVinci Resolve 17?
So DaVinci Resolve 17, I'm going to jump on it right after that. And during the next week, I'm going to be putting out a video of all the new features, all the practical features. Like, your boy is never about the fluff. So I'm always about like just attacking the right things, things that you and I are going to take advantage of. That said, that does not make DaVinci Resolve 16 obsolete at all. The color correction and color grading is color grading, right? Like those things are always, it stays the same. Like, they might have new features to shot match. They might have new features for this and that, which you guys should also get excited about because I'm going to be dropping those things in the course as well. If there is some like a major game changer in there. So let's keep going. And then hold on. So do we have Nick? Can we bring on Nick or something?
I'm just asking where Nick and Jake are. They have to be like in the comments.
Nick Watson and Jake Pirelli. If you guys want to drop in a comment right here so then she can send you a video request, you guys can jump on if you want to take a minute. And guys, Nick and Jake are...
Nick's here.
They're active like members in FCM. They're crazy. Like they're especially Nick competes in every week's competition, got a family, got a crazy job, but is always here, like, crazy game player, like just real like player right there doing it day in and day out. So I want to bring him on and just kind of pick his brains on like, what's his take on this culture? What's his take on FCM? But let's keep going.
Jake's here too. I just invited Nick. It should be popping up or he's got to accept it or whatever.
All right. So Nick, like you should be able to accept something and then I'm going to do this, man. And hopefully.
That's the only way you can.
Yeah.
Oh, here he is.
Oh, there? Turn this off.
All right, let's see if this is better. Brother,
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. There's a little echo, right? Like, I don't know what's causing it, but we'll figure it out.
Cool, man. How's it going?
Good, brother. How's it going, man? Finally got to see you. Like,
right?
Jesus. All right, Nick. So I want to take a moment. Like, I actually don't even know when exactly you joined. So just talk about when you joined and just a little bit about like, what's your take on it? What's your experience with this course? Like, say, compared to something else that's out there or a school system or whatever. You don't have to like, just summarize it.
Okay, so I joined back in beginning of the lockdown actually, because
Okay, there we go.
Oh, who's that?
Hold
Oh,
on. So
sorry.
we gotta bring Ghost Rebels later. So I just cut that. All right, sorry, brother. Keep going.
So, it's cool, man. Yeah, I started when the lockdown started, really, because I work in post production on the still side of stuff, and obviously, if no one's shooting, then I got no work.
Right.
And going into colorists was something I always wanted to go into. So I thought at that point, that's the time to make the jump. Really.
I mean, this is like a crazy thing, right? Like, this is what I keep telling everybody that, this is the time I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm learning more about like specific things because I feel like right now things are kind of slowed down. So a lot of people kind of go to this retreat, right? Where they're just like, oh, poor me. This is all happening. I don't know what to do. But it's like, dude, this is the best opportunity to like learn the things that you wanted to learn, but they were on a back burner. So love that. Keep going.
Well, that's it. Like, if you can either sit down and do nothing and just wait for everything to restart, or you can use it as an opportunity just to get going. And whenever everybody else is sitting around, you get a jump start on everyone.
Right. So Nick, talk about. Go ahead. Keep going. I'm sorry.
That was it. I just finished with so.
I wanna ask you about like the mastermind group, because I feel like you are in that group pretty active. Like, I see your comments on people's posts and everything. Just the communities and the groups that like, what do you think? Is it everybody just like hyping each other up too much? Is it the right crowd? Like, how do you feel about that community?
I think it's awesome. I think it's really good. I think there's a lot of information that gets posted in there that is really helpful. And then you've got lots of people with amazing talent that are just happy to just give help to others as well. I've been helped a lot. And it's great. Like some of the other ones, they get really mean, and if there's none of that, because you kick them out.
That's the thing. It doesn't matter. The way I operate is that I just booted a couple of people last week. It's just like, and they're paid customers. But listen, I don't care. I'll give you your money back. Like, I want a positive culture. But when I say positive culture, Nick knows firsthand, this is no rah-rah. Like, we're actually making stuff happen. But there are two ways to do things, right? Like, one is that like this communist, like weird thing, like where you got to grind and, just like the Mr. Miyagi way, where you got to pick up the freaking broom and put in 15 years. Or another way is that, let me show you the ropes, go in there, do it, and then we'll keep tinkering with it. We'll keep tweaking it until you get to a happy place.
Well, that's it. And that's how I started in stills as well. I didn't go to photography school or anything like that. As you know, I used to be a dancer. So I just decided that I wanted to go into retouching when I found out that was actually a job. Learned what I could on the internet, started testing, went into a studio, and then went in as an intern, and then worked up, left as a freelancer, and then doing the same now with switching over into color grading.
Nick is a freaking ninja. Like, Nick, if you look at, I'm gonna pop up some of his grades here and just give you an example. I mean, he is coming from photo retouching, but how he's bringing that world into this color grading world is like, it's kind of insane, but it makes a lot of sense. Thanks. He works on a lot of big jobs too. And while we're talking, like, I will bring up some of the work that he did like during our competitions. So I have those videos. All right, I'm going to pop them open. So, brother, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining.
Of course. Pleasure, man. Everyone join, because it's awesome. You'll never regret it.
All right, brother. All right, guys. So we're going to keep moving on with questions, and then we're going to bring on some more people too. So let's just keep going. And in the meantime, I do want to do this. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Yeah. So you keep up the questions ready, and I'm gonna pop this open, and I want to show you some of these examples because I need to show these so you guys can see what kind of stuff these guys are creating. So this is from Nick right here, War Dogs. And just look at his look recreation, okay? So it's going to do a whole breakdown. This is how he's starting and then where he's ending up. And that's just like, just another weekend challenge in our group. And this is from War Dogs. This is another example from Fraser. That's his take on it. Just look at it. Where it started to where it ended up. Again, this is the kind of stuff that's happening on weekly basis. Instead of like putting each other down, we actually just create. And this is another one, another example. So, I mean, like, this is just my point of like the kind of stuff that's happening. Now, when I said we have weekly challenges and then we have winners every 3 months, Brian was the winner of season 2. He got a nice fat $1,000, PayPal to his account. And then these were his best looks from that season. So this is from Ford versus Ferrari. And this is the reference. And look at the look that he created. He started here. He ended up here. Let's look at some more. This is his Joker look. This is before. This is after. This is his Mad Max look. This is before. This is after. And guys, this is the kind, and then this is Tony's look. This is Emily, the movie Emily. And he's starting here. He's ending up here. And then this is from Daniela. She's super, super bullish when it comes to creating looks. She pushes them. So this is her log. This is her process. This is her final look. This is my point of like knowing what kind of community you're going to be joining and what it's going to be about. Let's keep moving on with questions.
All right. Jake, I'm bringing on Jake, but we'll ask the question. A few questions, yeah. All right. Can this node tree be copied and pasted into other projects, or do you have to make a new one every time?
Hey, camera, focus on me. So this is what I was going to talk about, right? The big thing, good thing that you guys brought up this question, because that is the whole thing, right? What I can do with this node tree right here, I can go under my power grades. Everybody has this, okay? I'm gonna do this so you guys can see it. And Jake, just give me 1 second, brother. So one thing that I want to show you is that when you're in Resolve right here, so we created this whole node tree. Before we started making changes to it, the idea is that before you start making any corrections, we built out that whole node tree, right? Now you can easily just right click and drop it in here. So I can right click here and say grab still. So when I do grab still, boom. Now I got that node tree. I can call it my base node tree. And every time I'm working on a new job, I can just click this one button and it'll bring in my node tree. But obviously you have to do this before your corrections are made. So I'll give you an example. If I do add new version and delete this, now if I click on this base node tree, see, none of the changes are made. This is my base node tree ready to go. And now I can hit the ground running, whether I'm working on a golf commercial, whether I'm working on a short film, whether I'm working on a documentary, whatever have you, and I can apply it to an entire project. Then I can go to my first clip and start making changes. So that's how these node trees, build outs work. Once you create it, don't make any corrections, save it as a power grade so it's available throughout your database. You're working on a new project, you just do one click, boom, everything comes in and hit the ground running. Not to mention, guys, that's one thing that I did not brought up, which is that people that are part of the masterclass are going to get access to this node tree and are going to get access to this training. Outside of that, this training is not going to leave this place. Once the live ends, it ends. Now I'm going to bring up Jake. He's live.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's going on, brother? You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can. This was not my
great.
Yeah, this was not my plan for when we were going live, but actually I was just coloring a project, and then I had a client go up and shoot, so I'm headed that way now.
Jake is insane. What is it? Oh, okay. So you can turn it up a little bit more. So Jake, there's a weird thing going on. Like I can hear myself here, and I don't know how to turn it off. So I'm gonna try my best to understand you, and then also have a conversation. But so the thing that you guys need to know about Jake is that first of all, he's only 15, so he's a baby. He has worked with awesome clients, made a lot of money in the recent couple of months, and he's a go-getter. He does it all, right? Like, I mean, he will be the creative director. He's shooting it, he's editing it, color grading it, and then he has a whole team that he's working with already. He's actually pretty young. He's not 15, he's 22, 23, but still got a whole team going on, big operation. And then when it comes to color grading, the dude, it just seems like he's gifted, but obviously it's something that he's been working on really hard. He puts out banging tutorials, has his own YouTube channel. So Jake, take it through, man. Like, I mean, did I don't know, because you were even pretty good before that. I don't know if this masterclass helped you a little bit, but what happened when you signed up for the masterclass? Take me through it.
So I started off making videos, I guess when I was like around 10 years old, and they were just terrible videos, but as I turned 16, I was responsible for obviously paying my own bills and everything. And I decided, hey, instead of going to get a regular job, let me just see if I can, kind of make something out of this, what I love to do. So, I enjoyed that. I started making money. That was the only job I ever had. And then as I got more and more professional, I knew that I needed to up my game in as many areas as I could to just be as competitive as I could be. And I also loved being able to play some kind of role in really big productions. And that was where color, I saw the opportunity there. Color grading was always my favorite part of the process when it came to filmmaking. And I decided, hey, let me see if I can be a part of some bigger operations by offering my services worldwide, because there's 7 billion clients out there. Might as well give this a shot. And then, of course, I got resolved to get really experienced in it, and then found your masterclass. The tutorials that you put up on YouTube were fantastic. And then when I took the masterclass, everything went to the next level.
I mean, this is what I'm saying. What he said is like what we started talking about in the beginning, where I was just like, when you take, if you really want your projects to look big budget, this is not just like a sales pitch. This is a real thing, because everybody is shooting their stuff on A7S. People have red cameras that don't even know how to use our 3D files, what to do with it, but they're just using them. So everybody has access to the gear now. That's not a big deal. How do you separate yourself? If you go on Jake's page on Instagram and just look at his last few, tri-stacks and quad stacks that he puts out, just look at those grades. It's crazy where he's starting to where he's ending up, and his clients are actually happy. So he's also using his freelancing skills, his business skills to actually also sell them on it. But you need to have enough, like you need to have a solid portfolio to sell them on whatever it is that you're creating, or else they're just not even going to hear you. They're just going to be like, dude, I just don't care. Give me something I'm comfortable with. So Jake, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Good to see
brother.
you.
All right, guys. We have so many new members. It's crazy. David, welcome Josh, welcome Steven and Steven. 2 different Stevens.
Let's go, guys.
Jonathan, Brian, Kyle, Peter, Ari, Wapnell, David, another David, Zach, Kyran, Ruben, Adam.
You guys are nuts. This is
Elias,
amazing.
Lucas, Ricardo, Greg, Boris, AJ, Luke. And that's before I even refresh. So just welcome everybody.
Love you guys. We're going to take more questions. We're going to keep going. Like I said, this is your opportunity. Drop in your questions, like your problem. Whatever your question is, let me answer it right now. You have me. Let's go.
Essential difference between HDR footage and regular footage.
So there is no such thing, like it's not really, right? Like, I mean, so if you shoot in log, you can turn your footage into HDR. Now, the main restriction that you got to understand is that HDR doesn't work well or doesn't work at all with 8-bit. If you are going to grade anything that's 8-bit and try to do an HDR grade, 1, it's going to break apart. 2, it's not going to be accepted by anywhere, like not Netflix, not Hulu, nothing like that. If you go through their white paper, 10-bit minimum, ProRes HQ minimum, that kind of thing, or like raw, whatever. But log is the best way to put yourself in that HDR category. Don't get confused with like when cameras say Rec 709, Rec 2020. Those are only applicable if you do the standard profile when you're shooting on your camera. So when your camera says Rec 709 and you're shooting something on a C500 Mark II, that just means that it's saying, hey, bro, if you're shooting in standard, do you want to capture Rec 2020, like a big color gamut, or do you want to capture like, Rec 709? What do you want to do right off the gate? So that's what it really means. Let's go.
All right. I just invited
Great question.
John. He just bought it. I just invited him. We'll see if he comes on. When do you use pre-clip versus post-clip? Do you pre-grade whole scenes in groups?
So pre-clip, post-clip, let me try to understand what you're talking about. Are you talking about the group clips? Like group clips, I don't use group clips a lot, but if you were to use a group clip, then what you will do is that in your pre-clip, you will use noise reduction. Still keep the same process in mind. So these two guys, right? Like, let me open this up. Let me pull this open so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So look at noise reduction node, and highlights could be considered your pre-group. Actually, not even highlights, because the highlights you change from shot to shot. So noise reduction is going to be considered sort of like a pre-clip where you can just make a change, set it and forget it, right? And then if you cache it out or something, like it's already done, it's already set, you're good to go. And then post clips are going to be the things like this. All your trims, your director's, grade, your DP grade, that kind of stuff can just go in post clip. But when you follow my node tree structure, like this signature Kazi's node tree, when you follow this one, You don't need to do necessarily group clips. There is a time and place, and in my masterclass during shot matching, I do take you through group clips and how I use them when it comes to shot matching. Let's go.
How do you isolate skin tone and track them if the background has the same color and value?
So most of the time, what you will do is you will just let it happen. So when you're going to grab your key and it spills on, like, say, the bricks or something like that, let's just say my dude is like in some urban surrounding and the walls are like brick walls, something like that. Now we're picking up on that. It is okay. Most of the time, you're not going to turn anybody into an Oompa Loompa anyways, right? Like, you're just trying to correct the skin hue a little bit, right? To just give them that juice. So it doesn't matter. What really matters is that get rid of that chatter. Make sure that there's not like weird spots that, you're not picking in the skin, like under your chin or something, there's a shadow and it's not capturing that. Now, all of a sudden your shadows are picking up the, say, teal and orange look you're creating, and it's picking up all the teal and it's just looking weird under the eyes. It has that, like, gunky shadows or whatever. You got to clean those up. But 99% of the time, when you key something out, it is okay. On commercials, most of the time it's not okay. On a commercial, you're really focused on each individual element in the shot. So you will key something. So let's say I key out the face, but it's falling on the bricks or like something else that's in the same hue. Then I will window it out. I will create a window. I would track it shot by shot, shot by shot. That's why a commercial with 23 or 30 shots can take up a day to grade it. Whereas a movie can take 2 to 2.5, 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks. But you can, grade an entire movie with 1,000 shots in 4 weeks. But a commercial with 23 shots take a day because you have to get very granular.
How long was the learning curve for you?
So I'm still learning. And this is not to sound cute. This is just the only truth. I mean, it does not stop, man. Like, new things are coming out, new things are happening. Like, after this, I'm going to watch Resolve 17's, keynote, and I'm going to pick up so many things that I'm going to be like, oh my God. Sometimes you watch new videos and they teach you about the old software that you're using. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes you'll watch a new feature, for the new software that you will go, I never even tapped into the old feature in the old software, and something is going to resonate with you and you're going to go and do something, So it's always going to be that game. I will never consider myself like that I'm the freaking master of this and I know every single thing. I know there are monsters out there, like, people that are just way better. They're just not good at marketing, so they don't come out and, like, with social media, whatever have you. That said, I am confident to take any project and, see it to fruition and actually kick ass, like do a really good job. So all you can do is just go in, stay possessed 100%, instead of like spending too much time reading the theory, like the color theory or whatever. I would rather take that time and apply it. Like how one of my merch like says, learn and apply, like that quote. It's in my masterclass, in every single video, learn and apply, because if you're going to do this, you got to do that. It's like, the left and right jab in boxing. It's like, you got to you got to come out with a combo. It has to go hand in hand. So learning is good, applying is better. And they both go hand in hand. Let's go.
Baby, we have so many new members. Welcome Matthew, Pia, Chris, Daniel, another Matthew, Josh, Rashida.
Love you guys. Let's go.
Johan, Andy, John, Bill, Maximiliano. I'm sure I tortured that name. Brandon, Lindsay.
Let's go, guys.
Welcome, everybody. What's the difference between layer mixer and parallel nodes?
All right, we already covered that in the training. Let's move on.
Okay. Can you go over 8-bit footage?
All right, so obviously can't go over 8-bit footage here, but again, I have a free training that you can get access to actually do the where I show you how to get the best look out of 8-bit footage. But more importantly, in the masterclass, have a whole section where I did a long 40-minute lesson getting the best image out of A6500 that she shot in a naturally lit environment. So you're already taking Sony S-Log3 or S-Log2 footage, and you're just doing it in a natural light, letting it be. And then how do you get the best image out of that? How do you get perfect skin tones? All of that covered, and that video is in there along with the footage for you to practice with.
How long will the $497 price last?
Okay, so this 497, if we end the Q&A right now, it just goes away. I will turn that off. Like it's just like a little button that I turned on, that coupon on the back end. So I'll just turn it off, and it has a limiter and it will end eventually. But I didn't know how long this Q&A is going to go, so I kind of left it open, but it has like a limit where I can just go in, flip the switch and turn it off, because it's not fair if I just leave it open. I want to be a man of my word. So when I say after the Q&A it's done, after the Q&A it's done. If she has only 2 questions left and then it's over and we're out, then that's it. That's your opportunity. So take advantage of it. I'm telling you, you can ask people. You can even ask Jake. I don't think Jake paid $497. I think he paid less. The masterclass last year when it came out, it used to be $297. Right now it's sitting at $997. Like I said, in 1 week, I'm going to be bumping it up quite a bit. So you want to be part of all of this, not just like the living, breathing thing that is the masterclass where you're getting new lessons and project files and all that. But more importantly, the community, what Nick just, said, like being part of this system, it does something for your mental health, and you need that to keep pushing through and have like a purpose in life. So this community is like, just takes it to a whole another level. Like that alone is worth becoming part of this course. Let's keep going.
After qualifying your skin tones, what's the correct workflow through the wheels? Do I start with the highlight, shadow, midtones?
So, I mean, it's going to, most of the time it's going to be your gamma, because the skin tones live in that gamma world. Like, right? If you look at your scopes, the skin tones live in the middle, regardless of African American, Southeast Asian, Caucasian, whatever have you. Like the skin tones live in that world. So I usually always start with the gamma. And then I take my gain most of the time to add magenta, because a lot of the times what's going to happen is that in your gamma, you're going to push that yellow or orange in, right? To kind of pop out the skin. So that's going to make your lips turn out a little bit weird than what they're supposed to be. It throws off the hue on the lips most of the time. So then I go in my gain and I error correct that. I go in my gain and then I take it a little bit towards magenta. And then you do a push and pull between gamma and gain, but just make sure that the lips are the colors of like what the lips should be, but then you can just take the face and, give it a little bit more juice, give it a little bit orange.
Could you talk about grading hybrid log a bit?
One thing that I can only discuss here about hybrid log, because again, it's like when you talk about different types of like color sciences, like, we just step into a whole new world, or color gamut in this case. I will just tell you HLG2 over HLG3. HLG3 kind of defeats the purpose. It's like too much graded in camera. Like it's sort of like a standard version of the HDR, if you will. Like, how back in the day we had like a standard profile on our 5D Mark II or whatever have you. HLG3 is that for HDR. So it's kind of just too crushed. You want to shoot an HLG2, which is most of the time is the default option. And that gives you the highest amount of like range, what you can do. But even then, HLG is somewhat of like, it's one of those, it's one of like the bake in looks. And then you can do a little bit more push and pull. But ultimately, the shadows are kind of like, it has a pretty steep curve. All the HLGs have a curve, but they were meant for broadcast and news channels and sports channels, because you get to have HDR image, but then it's sort of like graded. It's like they can air it. They can just throw HLG3. That's very popular for sports. You just throw HLG, expose it right, and now you can broadcast an HDR. You don't have to do anything.
Is the colorist responsible for the final image, including like non-color related things like sharpening, etc.? Are they the last chain in the post-production process? They really are. I mean, sharpening is on you. Grain is on you. Most of the time, if you are Eric Whip, which is the colorist of Mad Max, if you're that guy, sky replacements are on you. A lot of the colorists that I know, some of the colorists, they are crazy. They're coming from the Flame pipeline. So if you've ever heard of the software Flame, a lot of the people there are compositors. So if you know Nuke, if you're coming from that world, you are a full-on compositor. You become gifted colorist, you are just out of control. Now you know how to do sky replacements, wire removals, all of that, and you do it in Fusion, which is part of Davinci Resolve. One of the tabs, you go under Fusion, boom, 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 do all of that. You come out of it. I know a friend of mine that will do like
road replacement all the time and like tons of those things. Now that stuff takes tons of time. So his commercial process is not one day. He will take 4 days to grade a commercial. That's not because he's that slow. That's because he's doing 2 jobs in one. He's a compositor slash. So a lot is asked of you, but then a lot of the times clients understand that this is not necessarily in the description of a colorist, that you're supposed to do sky replacements and wire removals and all of that. That's why they have a whole VFX team. So just something to keep in mind.
Vectors are joined together with layer mixer or parallel node?
So it depends on what you're working on. But in this case, the example that I showed you when I was building this node tree, I'm using it in parallel fashion because I want them to blend in. So if I make a change to my green and then the next one is whatever, they're still isolated through qualifier, but they're not like jarringly isolated like they would be if it's a layer mixer. The layer mixer says, cut everything out. After this, don't like bring anything else, cut it out. Whereas parallel mixer, I can do a window, I can do a bunch of different things, and it's like kind of just massaging it and bringing it, blending everything in together. That's the difference.
Even more students are signing up. We have Jorge, Kobe, Jordan.
Let's go,
Sander,
guys.
Topher. They're still coming in.
So pumped
Welcome,
for you guys.
everybody. Okay, can you share a high-res graphic of your node tree at the end? Like hard to see.
Okay, so
couldn't
that is a pretty good question. Okay, let me see what I can do. Let me pop this open. Let me get rid of no, not this. Let me pull this over. And let's see if you guys can see it better. Let me make this bigger. Oh, won't even go. So how is this? Is this a little bit better? This is the one that we created. Okay, so let me try to make it bigger. Grab it, move it over. So that should give you a much better sense of like what that node tree was. Top is noise reduction, then highlights, then primaries where we do our base grade, LUT or whatever look DNA, pop. Usually I use editable splines to kind of just give it that little edge to my image. Hue versus, we did a lot of jujitsu, like where do I want my green, how to take out that magenta in the glove. Then we have our vectors, red, yellow, and green. Let us like put this grass where we wanted it, the T where we wanted it. Then we went into our adjustment, sort of like a midway through global adjustment to like, what is the vibe? We took away a little bit more magenta there. Then the skin node and eyes, obviously not applicable here, but just leave them as is. You can use them for granular little changes if the director asks you to pick out the club or pick out like individual piece, like a part of his like thumb or something like that, whatever have you. Then we have our sky, hero, left, right, bottom, all these windows pre-made, ready to go. And you saw how fast it was to use it when we were working on the shot. Then we went into our effects. We have glow, lens flare, film damage. So those are our effects. And then finally we did the trims. And the first one was global adjustment, where I make like the ultimate final adjustment to my image. If it highlights need to be brought down, something like that. Then we have a director's grade, we have DP grade, and we have a trim. If it's SDR, HDR, if it's for, DCI-P3, something like that, different color space, like we can make those adjustments right there.
Okay, they're saying, will you post a screenshot of this anywhere so that they can see it?
I mean,
I guess it's like pixelated or they can't read it or whatever.
I'll consider it, but again, not trying to be that guy who wants to hold on any information. But when it comes to my FCM members, I am very protective, and I want to keep the information that I give to them exclusively to just them. I don't like to just, like I said, take everything that I'm giving them and just put it out for free. Then what's the point of you getting my course if I'm putting out all that information out there? So I'm going to think about it. I'm going to come up with a clever way to see what we can do to give you that information. Let's keep going.
Also, to follow up with that question, will this webinar be in the masterclass?
This webinar is already ready to go. Once we film this, I'm going to download this and I'm going to just package it up, like take out the, the ums and ahs and like the intro section or whatever, clean it up. And then this is just going to go straight into the webinar, into the masterclass. Absolutely. 100%. This is going in along with this shot. I'm going to throw that shot in there too, so you guys can like really practice when we're building this together.
All right. We have Juan Pablo I think I'm saying his name right. He just signed up.
Let's do this.
Minutes ago.
All right, I'm bringing him on. What's going on, brother?
Hey, greetings from Mexico.
Oh, let's go, man. You don't. It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you're from here. Like you have no
Oh,
accent.
really? Well,
Hell yeah.
that's cool.
All right, brother.
cool.
So talk to me. Why did you join?
I don't know, man. I'm really interested in color grading, and I mean, for me, I'm like a complete noob to Davinci and everything, but I was always interested in going to the next level. And I mean, one friend of mine recently started his own studio, and he just bought the Canon R5, I guess.
Yep.
That it has like all the log capabilities and everything. And well, I just want to be prepared for when I start shooting log footage, right? And get that crisp color. I actually just got my it's a BenQ 10-bit color monitor. So I can start getting into. I mean, I'm also a complete noob about the white color gamuts and everything. But I mean, I think it's just a slow process and start doing something cool, right?
Brother, you're starting at the right place. I'm telling you. I mean, not trying to toot my own horn, but what I'm saying is that if you follow me on other platforms and you see how I'm just practical information, I just give you the information you need other than trying to make myself sound really smart. And this whole masterclass is like that. Like it is meant for somebody like yourself that does not have a corroded brain, does not acquire information from other trainings or whatever have you. So when you're going to start and follow this pattern and swim in this Kool-Aid, like you're going to see, dude, it's going to be insane. Like right during color correction module, which you can get to in a couple of weeks, when you're doing color correction module and you're applying those changes, or especially after the camera module where you're going to learn how to work with your C-Log footage, it's going to be a game changer because you're just going to see what each camera is capable of, especially R5 and the kind of stuff that we can get from those cameras, but we just can't because we don't know when the image is going to break. We don't know what the limit is, how far we can go. So brother, super excited for you. Happy to have you, man, in FCM.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Gamma shift in Mac on QuickTime versus VLC is just not fixable. Even tried your suggestion from your masterclass. Please help.
Okay, so one new thing that they added in the recent update, I'm going to share that with you and you guys can try this out, see what happens. I personally am not having any issues because here's the thing. If you tried my techniques and your QuickTime looks proper, that's all you need. Because if it looks like that in QuickTime, it's going to look like that on an iMac. It's going to look like that on a MacBook Pro. It's going to look like that on a what do you call it? It's going to look like that on an iPad. It's going to look like that on an iPhone. So when all of those devices are working the same way, you don't have to worry about it. Now, if somebody just shows up with their Huawei and they go, hey, the colors are off, you could be like, dude, why are you looking at that? Like, just look at something that's more universal. So that's a simple answer there. Another thing right here, under DaVinci Resolve, under Preferences, you go under General, click on this guy right here, automatically tag Rec 709 scene clips as Rec 709A. Even if it's pixelated, just trust me on this, I just spelled it out for you. Automatically tag Rec 709 scene clips as Rec 709A. Click on that. Also, then you go in here, and in here, under your, let me look at that where it is. Is it under color management? I think that's it. I don't think you need to do, let me see if there's anything else that we need to do, but I think that was it. That was one thing that you needed to do. Yep. So that was it. Now that you set it up there like that, I think you don't even need to automatically or manually tag it in your deliver page. When you set it up there, that is like their new Rec 709A like setting that they offered in the Resolve 16.2 like whatever update. Then you can just go in, export it. Everything should be fine. There shouldn't be any gamma shifts. I know exactly what you're talking about. The VLC to like QuickTime. But once your QuickTime is fixed, you don't need to tell people to watch it in VLC. And like I said, if they're going to be watching it on their phone, if the QuickTime looks the way it looks, then it's going to look exactly like that. On the iPads, it's going to look like that. 100% of my clients, this is how the process goes. Pretty much, I can't think of one client that didn't have an iPad. So anytime I work on a job, I go, I'm sending you stills, look at it either on your iPhone or iPad. And it's always like, okay, no problem. And then they look at it and they go, great, it looks great, everything is good, let's move on. So it's just a simple, like, thing that you got to do. You got to educate your clients sometimes in a way where, you're not coming off condescending, but you just like make it apparent that, hey, this is how it goes. Like nothing will ever look the same on all 100 screens, but this is the process that we have to follow.
Can you explain a bit on splitter combiner node?
I'm not gonna, I barely use it. So that's just something like I said, I mean, there are videos and there's like, things that you can check out on Mixing Light where they're doing all kinds of fancy stuff with splitter nodes. But I've just noticed that if you master all the things that are here and majority of the stuff that I talk about, because never in my entire career so far in a decade, I got to a point where I didn't kill it because I didn't know how to use splitter nodes. So that's not to say that, oh, I don't use it, so then it's not cool. I'm just saying my purpose from everything that I'm always teaching is that it's going to be something that you're going to run with it. You're going to take it and apply it right after this training. It's more than novelty. It's more than something that we can talk about and be like, I know how to use all nodes, like 100 types of different nodes over like which nodes you actually need to know. So, I mean, that's just my 2 cents. And personally, like to end it, I don't use them a lot to actually have a crazy opinion on it.
I prefer editing in Premiere Pro, so I've been color grading in Resolve first, rendering that, then importing the color graded footage into Premiere Pro and editing there. Would you suggest a different workflow?
I mean, it just all depends. A lot of the time, times that I work with companies, when we ended up in Resolve, we wanted to just go out from Resolve. Like we wanted to end it in Resolve. So our editors would be working in Avid because you guys all know Avid is a monster when it comes to collaborative environment. So they would be grading in Avid, which is called an offline edit. So they edit in Avid, they bring everything in, the online editor brings everything into Resolve for me, and everything is all linked up, ready to go. I come in, I color it. Then the graphics guy comes in, sits with me, and then we start bringing in all the supers, all the graphics, and we try to build it, like all the disclaimers, everything, we build it inside Resolve. And then during this time, we're working with the VFX team. They're giving us, we're sending them plates. They're giving us elements, we're bringing those in, and we're just marrying it all in majority of the time in Resolve. That said, then there's a lot of people that just are familiar with whatever they're familiar with. I just finished a grading job for a music video. It was edited in Final Cut 10. I graded it. And then because the team is in Morocco, they're in Final Cut 10. They still got, some graphics and a bunch of things that they wanted to do, transitions and stuff. So I shipped out my grade as a bake and blade single file. They brought it in and then started layering graphics and everything on top. So different workflows, but this is why it's so important to get the masterclass, because the whole Conform module is going to debunk all of that. And literally, I will take you through the industry standards. These are the different ways. You pick your poison.
All right. What would you suggest? What would be a suggestion or indication to ask the cinematographer for footage in low light with less noise and better colors to work with? What workflow could we take as colorists?
Okay. So, I mean, what you want to tell them is to overexpose, like ETTR, expose to the right, which is basically overexposed, right? Because, if you guys are looking at my screen, the reason why they call it ETTR is because if I go on this node and you're looking at my histogram, if I pull this up and make it this, this histogram is not moving, but if I had a histogram here and you look at where everything is right now, and then when I grab it and push it over, exposing to the right. Like when the image is overexposed, it goes to the right. They don't need to overexpose it, but that said, that's what you got to tell your DP. And your DPs, if they're professional DPs, they know what they're doing. When they're shooting, anytime anybody's shooting low light stuff, they overexpose it. So then when we get more data through the sensor, so when we get the image in color grading room, we have the ability to darken the image, make it whatever we want. Day for night, we can do tons of different things. So ETTR.
Using curves is better or primaries?
Primaries, man. Like, I mean, if people like once you join my masterclass, you're gonna hear me just talk about LGG, right? Lift gamma gain, lift gamma gain, lift gamma gain. Like, if you can master that, it's game over. Like, I mean, there's so much power in using lift gamma gain. I'm gonna give you an example, like real life example right now while we're here. I'm gonna go under my open recent and hopefully I have that video here. So right here, look at this image and it's gonna blow your mind. So this is how it's shot, right? Let me make it bigger so you guys can see it. So this is how this image is shot, right? Let's just make it bigger so you guys can see it better. This is how it's shot. And I go from this to this. Look at the jump. I go from this to that, lift gamma gain. Now you would think that, dude, how did you create this Joker-like, you know, crazy like teal and orange look from where the image was sitting? And then I keep going and obviously finesse it and finesse it and finesse it. And that's what we ended up with. But you saw the initial, you know, like log image. So how did I do that? 90% of it was done through lift gamma gain. So that's why I am team lift gamma gain all the way. And it's like very manageable. The beautiful thing about it is that you can easily see what went wrong if something happens. You just, boom, fix it. And the results are always very organic. I feel like with other tools, sometimes it starts to become overly stylized, overly processed. Lift gamma gain, super organic.
Is $497 the whole class?
Exactly, right? I mean, you can't believe it. This is what I'm saying. That's why the price is just going to skyrocket, because this course is out of control, man. Like, I mean, there's not another course on planet Earth that is this long when it comes to color grading, where you get practical information that sandwiches the mastermind group within it, not to mention $1,000. Nick Watson, the guy that I brought on, he is the champion of the recent challenge, season 3. So he got $1,000 for season 3. And Gabi got $300 for the second place. And then, you know, last season, Brian won. So it's like you're paying $497 and you're getting $1,000 back if you're kicking ass in the mastermind group. And yes, long-winded answer, it is $497 during the Q&A section, which should be ending anytime soon. So if you haven't joined, think later, go jump on it right now. Let's keep going.
All right, welcome new members. Tony, Matthew, Josh, Steven, Dominic.
Guys, so pumped. So happy to have crazy amount of people in there.
The community is just growing and growing. All right. Can you tell me more about monitor color calibration?
All right. So the easiest thing is that this is my recommendation. You know, if you want to take this seriously and if you want to do it the right way, and if you just don't want to drive yourself crazy, I will highly recommend making an investment in a half decent screen. What I mean by that is this screen that I keep looking at. This is where the camera is. This screen right here is a ISO CG, which stands for color grading. That's their color grading series. So this is ISO EIZO. That's the company name. That's the brand. ISO CG 279X. That's the monitor that I'm using. Solid, man. This is so solid. Like, the contrast on it is nothing to write home about. But that said, you can trust the colors. It has a built-in hardware calibrator, a little thing that pops up at night or random hours when it realizes that the light has changed too much or whatever. It will pop in, and considering the ambient light, it will recalibrate your monitor. So you don't have to worry about it. It's all automatic process. It all happens. It's one package. You don't need to buy external calibrators, anything like that. And for a starting point, this monitor gets my highest recommendations. And it's not cheap, right? It's like $2,500, $2,300. You can get it used maybe around $1,800, $1,900, maybe $2,000, something like that. But one investment I will highly recommend you make. That said, outside of that, you can type in Google X-Rite i1 Display Pro. So it's a mouthful, but it's X-Rite i1 Display Pro. And then look up what that thing is. You can pick up that probe. It's a calibrator. You can stick it on any screen that you got already. If you're using an LG monitor, whatever monitor you're using, you can just slap it on. go through the steps, which is super self-explanatory. You just keep hitting next, 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 and then hit set measurement or something, and then it starts processing it, and then it calibrates your screen to the best of your display's abilities. But like I said, it's just never going to be the same. I calibrated two LG consumer monitors that are the same model next to each other. The results were different. Why? Quality control. The reason why those monitors are so cheap, they're $200 monitors or whatever back in the day, is because, you know, not anybody is sitting on the other end making sure that each panel is giving you the exact same hue, exact same colors, blah, blah, blah. They're just turning and burning. They're selling those things. They're dirt cheap. So this kind of stuff happens. Maybe the material on the screen is different from this screen to that screen. So long-winded answer again, but I will highly recommend think about, you know, investing in a good screen because it will pay you just dividend.
All right, Matthew just bought the course and he said one question, he's watched your YouTube tutorials. He's creating a look like, say, a layer no bleach bypass. Where does it go in the node tree?
So it's going to go in pretty early on. So, you know, Matthew, what I'm going to tell you to watch, I'm sure you've probably seen it, but if you haven't, check out the tutorial I did on dark. So just how to get the dark look, type that in on YouTube. That's going to be the first tutorial that's going to pop up. How to get the dark look, use the bleach bypass, because that particular shot that I was using as a reference, I have a feeling, very strong feeling, that they were using a bleach bypass effect. Watch that tutorial. It will give you exactly what you're looking for, like one-to-one, like where that needs to go in the process.
Can you show your color management settings?
So the color management settings for the most jobs, even like, you know, most of the commercials that I'm working on up until this point is default. So it's like Rec 709, Gamma 2.4. That is Resolve's default as of now. If things change, that's a different story. But I'm leaving it as is. And that's most of the time is the same thing. Like I yet have to deliver a HDR project to a client. I think we're right around the corner. I think it's going to start happening, but it's not happening yet. Okay. So I just kind of leave that stuff to default and I don't mess with it because majority of the time you're either putting it on the web or you're putting it on broadcast. So if it's broadcast, it's Rec 709, Gamma 2.4 is perfect. If it's web, it's sRGB. So Rec 709 will do the job.
So you're saying that if a node tree is consistent, you can ripple it through every shot if they're the same.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So like that ripple technique that I talked about, you can be 95% done through your grade. You can go into your shot number 4 and you can make a certain change and say node number 7. Then you can just select handful of clips throughout that project and you can go under color, ripple it on the selected node, you know, of all these clips, and boom, it is going to reference that node from each shot because they're all consistent. So that's why it is such a massive, massive thing to build your node tree properly, because it just, man, it's all these little bits of being effective that collectively adds in to turn you into a monster. Like a couple of days ago, I graded a music video. It took me like an hour and a half, like that. Like we went in with a certain, you know, understanding, like, you know, the budget was low and I said, okay, if this is the case, then I can only do this. And then I went in and boom, 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 man. I was just there, like 5-6 quick moves and I was just there. And then I just finessed a little bit, got carried away, spent a little time on, you know, certain shots and I was done. So that's my whole point. Again, I was using the same node tree.
What can I do with red camera noise?
Red camera noise, watch any of my YouTube videos. If you're not part of the masterclass, obviously, you know, again, I'm going to say the same thing. I mean, even if it just sounds like, you know, sounds salesy, like in the masterclass, I have a whole module, camera module. And in the red, there's not just one thing that you're talking about, right? Like, I mean, it's not just what do you do with the noise in the red, you know, through the red camera, but it's more than that. It's like, what do you do with the actual, which color science do you pick when you're working with red? Like, how do you set up your gamut? How do you set up your entire profile? You know, version 2, you know, legacy, IPP2, which one should you use with which red? Like all that is covered under the camera module. And again, if something new comes out, I'm going to cover that and throw it as a lesson in there as well. So that is the important part. But if you just want to know how to attack noise reduction in general, watch any of my earlier YouTube videos or even like the earlier movie looks that I did. I will always go and show you what I do and what's my process. Like I have a signature way of like how I attack noise reduction, and it just works every time.
What school did you go to?
So I went to the Art Institute in Chicago. We both did. That's where we met. So went to the Art Institute in Chicago, and basically it was a general like film program, like where they just kind of teach you, turn you into a jack of all trades, and then you kind of pick your poison. So for me, you know, I started concentrating more on cinematography and editing. Again, man, I don't want to keep like, I don't want to be that guy to like talk bad about something that I've done or regret something that I've done in the past. But I'm telling you, there are so many better alternatives in this day and age than going to a school. I don't mind going to a school. I feel like it did make me a professional. It did give me that square vibe. Like, you know, I can have a proper conversation and just, I can also take on critique and like not get butt hurt or anything like that. I feel like a lot of self-taught people are kind of just not used to that concept. But when you're in school, everybody is critiquing your stuff, right? Openly. And a lot of the times it's in a positive environment, but still. So you get to learn how to be a team player.
How to get soft shadows like film looks from Justin Bieber's latest song, Mormon Soft.
So there's tons of different techniques that you can use to get that. Like one thing that I will tell you right now is something called like high soft and low soft, right? These guys right here. So let me show you what I mean. So let's say we have a pretty strong contrast going on here, right? So we have this look going on. It's pretty strong. Now, if I come in here, move this over, and I go under, say, in my global right here, and I want to create that Justin Bieber look really easily, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to go to Parade so you guys can see what is going on. I'm going to go under my low soft. I'm going to lift this up. Okay. I'm going to go under my high soft. I'm going to bring this down, and I'm going to kind of compress my highlights and my shadows. And obviously it's kind of hard to see in the shot, and obviously with the resolution and all that. But now if I go in a previous node, let's say I go back to this node right here, and I try to make some changes to my shadows, like you're going to start seeing what is happening. So if I do before and after, it looks like this, right? So you might go, man, this is still crushing it a lot. But look what will happen if I go in here and turn this off. How, like, just look at the bottom right here, how it's clipping it. So it's playing with this a lot, like this a lot. Like, so when you lift it up, see how it just kind of softened it? Like this is before, this is after. So that creates that really nice, you know, this kind of like contrast. That's like a fashion look, Vogue look, whatever. Again, not the right shot to kind of give you that example. But if I had like, say, if I had this kind of shot opened up right now, then you would have get a better sense of like what I'm talking about. But basically it'll do the same thing. That high and low soft will lift the shadows up and bring the highlights down. And then when you do a strong S curve or whatever in the previous node, it will give you, it will keep that fashion look or that Vogue look, like make it look, you know, like that, what you're going for. All right, next.
How many people are in the community right now?
So as of now, we are over 2,100 people. Before we, actually well over 2,100 people before we even did this. But, you know, after tonight, I mean, we have like so many people joining, so it's going to be much bigger number now. But we have over, we have like, I think somewhere around 2,400 people already. It's growing fast, man. It's in 1 year. So last August is when the first masterclass launch was, last August. And since last August in 2019 to now, and especially during pandemic and what people are going through and everything, but still, we hit that number. It was huge. It just only gets to tell you what it really is, you know? And we have crazy low like refund ratio. Like anybody that joins the class, barely ever somebody's just like, I want my money back. This is not what I was looking for, because there's just so many perks. I mean, I just remember there's so many things that I forgot to mention. You guys get 30% off on Red Giant, or not Red Giant. You get 30% off on Film Convert products. So if you want to get Film Convert, which I highly recommend, because I've been lately using a lot of film LUTs to create a certain look. So they have the best film print emulations. And if you want their LUTs, you can get 30% off. That software is $300. So you get 30% off right there. You get 10% off on Resolve if you live in the United States. We got a couple of other deals going on with companies. So that's what I'm saying. There's so many more perks. But yeah, ultimately, I think 2,400 people as of now.
All right, we have so many more students. Welcome, Shivam, Dwight, Ryan, Diego, Jeff.
Let's go, guys.
I know.
Let's go.
All right, will you do a video on ACES, or have you considered grading an ACES, or does your masterclass cover grading an ACES?
So let me be super transparent. My wife and I were talking about it yesterday as well. Like I said, when do we hit the brakes? When is it enough with this masterclass, and then we create a different course that attacks certain things? And I feel like this is where that divide comes in. That's where it kind of makes sense, to kind of just, okay, this is where you go from FCM, where you learn all, like the FCM is the Bible that gets you going, to grading commercials, even on like a broadcast level. But now if you want to jump into HDR, all things HDR, or all things ACES, and get a little bit more technical, then we have a separate deep diver masterclass or something like that. Again, we're just playing with it. We're trying to figure it out. I don't know where it's going to go. I've definitely played around with ACES. I have my own, node tree for that as well, because with ACES, like if you guys have used it, it's crazy. All these controls just go out the wazoo, because all these controls in DaVinci Resolve are made for Rec 7 and 9. I don't know if it's going to change in Resolve 17, but I know for a fact it's right around the corner where these lift gamma gain parameters and everything should work how it works in Rec 7 and 9, but it doesn't. HDR, it works like completely just out of whack. ACES, it works out of whack. So you have these workarounds to build your node trees in a way where you wrap your entire node tree around to still make changes on a Rec 7 or 9 level, but yet you have ACES on the IDT and ODT, where it's like, you're still living in that open ACES space. So anyways, before we jump into that, I'm just thinking about it. Maybe I will do like a quick module that's going to give you like the foundation of what it is and that kind of thing. Get your tongue wet, but then we'll have a deep diver, like a full course that goes through and kind of builds everything in ACES and in HDR, but it's in the works.
All right, this is Jeff. He just bought the course right now.
What's up, Jeff? I'm going to pop this open.
What's going on, man? How are you?
What's going on, brother? There's a weird echo, so I'm going to turn your audio and just ask you, like, a simple thing like that I've been asking. Like, I want to know why you joined this course, and what do you want to get out of it, and what do you do for a living?
So I'm a photographer, and mostly retouching is where my income comes from. So I've been doing that for about 10 years, and I've been trying to apply into video, and I just see all the stuff that you're doing, super inspirational. And I was like, you know what? I need the foundation of how to do this, the video, how to work with Reds, Alexas, and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Dude, and let me just tell you this, like Nick Watson, the guy that I brought on earlier, and he's part of FCM. He's also a retoucher, works with Burberry and like all these crazy brands. He's in England, and same thing, dude. You're going to have so much more fun because the foundation is there. The fundamentals are there. Like, this is what I always explain, right? Like somebody goes, hey, Kazi, can you also grade in FCP 10 and Premiere Pro? I'm like, yeah, you give me the lift gamma gain, like these tools, and I can do it. I have done it. So then it's like, it's really easy to translate that. It's hard for people coming from Premiere Pro to Resolve because you go from layer-based to node-based. So that's completely different. But once you get these foundations, and that's why I get so excited when, people such as yourself join the masterclass, because you're going to get, say, more bang for your buck because you already have like a pretty solid foundation of like being a tastemaker, like what proper retouching is. Now you just get to see where each tool is that you are familiar with in Photoshop, let's say. Now you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. This is how you do it in video. This is how you do it in Resolve. And you just go from there. Super excited for you, man.
Yeah, man. Well, Nick's story resonated with me a lot, and that was one of the things that made me click the button and purchase. And along with the community, I'm really excited to be part of the community to where when I have questions, there's answers, you know, and when I just want to talk to somebody about it, like this is it, man. I'm really excited.
Dude, I'm telling you, and I'm gonna let you go after this, but it's crazy. Like I said, if you have a demo reel, you're working on a demo reel or something like that, you can send it to me, like either through Instagram or email or something like that. First, you can drop it in the masterclass group, and like I said, nobody there in the mastermind group is just gonna like come for you. Like everybody's there, and not everybody's there to just cheer you on if it's not the best. They're gonna come in, give you the right like constructive criticism, but more importantly, if you ask me, I'm always that guy that will literally screenshot. I just did that with Gabi. I started taking screenshots and I told them, no, cut these shots. These 18 shots got to go. And then I took screenshots of like which shots need to stay. And his demo reel was like 2.5 minutes. I'm like, it needs to be 1 minute exactly. And that kind of feedback where I'm taking so much of the thinking out of the question that you just know exactly what to focus on. So yeah, dude, you're going to love it.
I appreciate it, man. Looking forward to it.
All right, brother. Welcome.
All right. How does the communication with the director of photography and colorist work? How do you get to the point where you and the director of photography like the look? What are the questions you ask the director of photography?
So first of all, I'm going to say like before you even get into it's going to depend on when you get hit up, right? Like, I mean, I wanted to say that in an ideal world, you want to be involved early on. That's what happens on Hollywood films, things like that. Like when I spoke with Jill, if you guys have seen that interview, it's on YouTube and Instagram. But if you guys have seen that interview, Jill Bogdanovich is a colorist of, John Wick, Joker, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and War Dogs, and tons of other movies. But when I interviewed her and talked to her, she said usually she's brought on before the movie is ever shot. So before they shot Joker, they brought her on. Lawrence Sher, who was the cinematographer, like he, worked with her, created a look before going in, and then they realized they wanted to shoot on film, but they didn't have to. It was going to be way more expensive, out of their budget. They can't do retakes as, they can with digital. And then when she was able to like nail that film look and make it look like how they wanted it, they were like, all right, let's just shoot on, Alexa, like let's just go with that and go in that direction. So this is just to tell you that it will always be a win-win if you can get involved early on with the DP. Let's say if you're working with a friend or something like that, get on it like early on, like try out different cameras. Like maybe on a testing day, they take out a Red and an Alexa, they shoot something and they figure out which one they should go with after you do like a quick pass and kind of show them side by side. Be like, hey, with Red, I was able to do this. With Alexa, I was able to do that. What do you guys think? So that's going to be my 2 cents. That doesn't happen every time. So then let's say this is, post-process, like everything is already done. You're just given the footage. You're jumping on it. Definitely before you get on a call or start an email sequence with a director and director of photography. Get both of them in together and say, guys, what are you thinking? Like, do you want to send me some references? This is how the conversation goes. Hey guys, do you want to send me some references? They're going to go on Shot Deck. They're going to send you some Blade Runner images. They're going to be like, this is what we were thinking. We shot it with mixed lighting, blah, 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 blah. Then you create your lookbook. You create your 2-3 different looks. You shoot that back out to them through email or get on the call and then do a Zoom call, whatever, and show it to them and be like, what do you guys think? Like, are we in the same world? Are you guys happy with it? And go from there. Communication is very important. It will almost always be a bad grade if you don't communicate with your client and just go for it and create anything. I'm telling you, everybody is always surprised because you will always hear the most common one is that this is not what it looked like. Well, of course, nothing is ever what it looks like because we want to make it better than what it looked like. But that's going to be the first like defense mechanism where the DP is going to be like, this is not what it looked like. And you go, well, what were you thinking? But if you have all that communication beforehand, it will never happen.
When you edit with the project setting set to 1080p and you need to export to 4K, do Do you have to change the resolution to 4K in the project settings and then export, or can you leave the project setting to 1080p, then select 4K in the export settings?
You got to change it. You got to change it in the timeline. You got to change it like in your settings. So like in here, I will go down here. I will click on this guy, this cog. Obviously, you knew this exists, but I'm showing it for everybody else. You're going to click on this. You're going to change it to 4K because it has to be changed natively. Because if I don't change it here, let's say this was set to 1080p, right? And I go to my deliver page and I change it to 4K. Look at the warning it's going to give me when I try to export. When I try to send it over, it's going to, let's just whatever. See, it just gave me a warning. It said, hey, you're changing the resolution. You're making the resolution bigger than what they're supposed to be. That they are in the timeline format. Obviously, it looks like gibberish there, but I'm spelling it out for you. So you have to change it here, change it back there to 4K, and then it will automatically be changed here. Because if I put it back to like even 720 and go here and change this on my timeline level, change it to 4K here. I'm going to go in here, click on this guy, change it to 4K, and now I click save. Look at this. Already it made the change. It made it to 4K, and now I can just throw it in the queue and we're good to go. Boom. It just added it without any warning. Everything is good to go.
Are you familiar with using grain via matte clip and blur and pre-clip before the grade to emulate film, and would you recommend it?
Yes, I am. It's the old days before Resolve had a open effects tab and Resolve had like their grain. Okay. And then even Resolve early on when they had their grain, the processing was garbage. Like it wasn't feasible because you throw on the grain and it will choke the system, and then you just can't use it. It wasn't practical. So you will go the matte route and bring in your own film grain that you can purchase from whatever stock website and then run it that way. Then you go under your, you will go under here and you will control it, like how much intensity, things like that. I was never a fan of it, but it was a workaround, so I did it. You don't need to do it anymore. You guys have seen my process. Like I use like Resolve's grain, and it never, makes your system taxing or anything like that. It's totally fine, and it gives you so many different presets, and you can go in and make granular changes, things like that. So I'm a massive, massive fan of that. Not so much of the old school process. People still use it, but no, I don't personally use it anymore.
I did my first movie as DP last summer, just €6,000 budget, crazy, but everybody did great. Now I have to color it, and it's a Linklater, America Honey, Florida Project style movie. Do you have any advice on how to approach that type of look?
Is that the Shia LaBeouf movie that he's talking about?
I don't know. I think he just means like a Florida, like a Dextery.
I mean, if you're going for, let's just say if you're going for somewhat of like the Hell or High Water, like that kind of look, I think I'm saying the title right. If you're going for that kind of look, first of all, I will always, what I encourage you guys to do, go on Shot Deck, download the images, bring it into Resolve, and then look at what you got. But brother, there's not a one-line answer that I'm going to give you that's going to help you. Again, let me just shamelessly plug it again and say that color grading module, once you go through all the modules, when you get to the color grading module, it's going to be one of those things that's going to be a eureka moment. If you see how I created that John Wick look, you saw how crazy it is, right? Like we just take that whole blue, that whole world, shift it, but then the skin tones look proper. Everything looks proper, like it belongs. It is literally like a 2 or 3 nodes grade. If you look at my Blade Runner grade, which is on YouTube, and look at how I created that, 3 to 4 nodes done and done. So it's not like you can watch that and now you can create it, because there's a lot of fill in the blanks. Like there's a lot of blank spaces in there that you need to fill. That's where the masterclass comes in, to kind of take you through those things for everything to make sense and has that logic behind it. When you're watching my YouTube videos, sometimes you're going, how is he doing that? How does he know that? When you go through the entire masterclass, you will know that. So when you're asking me this question, you will know the X, Y, and Z, the whole process. You'll bring in those images, Hell or High Water. Like I said, you bring it in, put it next to it, and then start experimenting with a couple of those things. And boom, 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 like 4 nodes later, you're in that ballpark. You just like figured out how to get there. But it takes a little bit more than just like a one-line answer.
Said yes to Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
All right. What are some strategies for dealing with clientele that frankly don't know what they want? It can be frustrating. So what do you do when there isn't a consensus on the look?
I mean, that is going to happen regardless. First of all, I just want to take a second. 461 people are still watching. Love you guys. I mean, this is unreal. This is crazy. This makes me so happy.
2.5 hours.
That is like 2.5 hours and you guys are still there. This is just unbelievable. I mean, when I say like the Cause Nation, like this community is just the best in the business, I'm not joking. Like it is. Yeah, I'm just forever humbled. Hit me with that question.
The clientele can't settle on a look.
Okay, so that is going to happen all the time. That's just the way it is. That's the name of the game. It doesn't matter. Just worked on a job for Vizio, and it was an epic project shot on Sony Venice. Amazing, man. Like the dynamic range on this camera is just 20 stops, feels like it. It's just so good. So worked on that job, started going places. Like I just started like having so much fun with it. It's shot beautifully, so I'm going places. The creative director jumps on board and is about to have a panic attack. Like, I mean, he's looking at it and he's just like, oh, dude, like, this is not what it looked like there. And then I had to, instead of like getting combative and just kind of be like, like, I mean, what do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. You have to learn to be tactful. Like, that's just the name of the job. You have to kind of take them through it. It's like The Office, like explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old. So like, you just kind of have to go through that like kind of thing with them and just do it in a way to be like, well, okay, cool. Like I get it, but let me show you like what the natural looks like, the Rec 709. Then as soon as you put it next to each other, they're going to look at Rec 709 and they're going to go, well, this doesn't look like a high-end commercial. You're going to be like, oh, okay. So then what do you think? Like, what do you think of my look compared to this look? Do you want to go somewhere in the middle? And they're going to be like, oh yeah, man, like let's still work with your look, but just dial it back a little bit. This is how you start the dialogue. You give them something that is not so great that makes them kind of go, let's go back to your look, but then split the difference. That's the name of the game. I think split the difference is the term that I use probably more than any other term when I'm grading. Everything, man, split the difference. Like somebody's going to look at this, look at the grass, and they're going to be like it where it is, split the difference. Like where the T is, split the difference. Like you just got to learn with how to roll with it and just go with it, man. That's just the name of the game. But I always encourage people to please not look at your clients as being difficult, not look at your clients as like them versus you. I always say it is a team effort, and I'm not bullshitting you. I am saying this to you. It's a team effort. You have to learn to work together, and the journey is a lot smoother and better. And just it's a happy one big family when you come in with that mindset that you're going to go in, you're going to work together, you're going to make art. Because ultimately, I'm telling you, I have learned more from creative directors and their vision than just on my own, like grading, because they're crazy, man. They'll surprise you. Every art creative director is different. Some of them will come in and just make you do things that you'll go like, this will never work. And then you do it and you go, oh my God, eureka moments, like, all day long, like light bulbs going off. And it's like, so you have to be open, to let that happen.
How do you work with oneer shot?
Yeah. Oneer. So, I mean, I have one YouTube video that is called commercial grading versus film grading or something like that. It's basically like the guy running through the street, and it's sort of like an urban vibe. So you will be able to find it. It's like literally a runner. It's called a runner. So just type in, go under my channel, and then under search, just type in the runner, and like that video will pop up. Watch that. That video is sort of like the oneer sort of thing, like where the dude is running through different lighting changes. And then I show you how to do that. And then you can take that philosophy and apply it to whatever it is that you're working on. So that will be a great one for you. But basically, if I were to sum it up, you have to use dynamic keyframes a lot. You have to rely heavily on dynamic keyframes going in and out of like shadows, different lighting temperatures, indoor, outdoor, things like that. But you have to do it smoothly, so it's not an abrupt like shift, like the old cameras, like the Canon 5D or something. You do the click, click, click aperture. Whereas like, you do it on like a cinema lens and it's like smooth. So you have to do the same thing in color grading, use dynamic keyframes to go in and out of like different color temperatures and different environments.
How do you fix the color gamma shift from Final Cut Pro to Davinci Resolve?
So that gamma shift is going to be fixed with the things that I've shared with people and that are in the masterclass. There's a gamma shift whole thing. And when you apply that, when you follow that, you don't have any issues. Also, let me tell you this, Final Cut 10, if I were to export my image without even setting up the Rec 709A that I showed you in the preferences, even if I don't do that, I just export my image from here in DaVinci Resolve, like export ProRes 422. If I take that image into Resolve or into Final Cut 10, it should look exactly the same. You can prove me wrong, but I'm pretty positive. I think I just ran that test a couple of days ago. It should look exactly the same because like I said, I graded that music video and they were going to bring it into Final Cut 10. So I wanted to make sure that whatever ProRes I'm giving them, it is the right tag, right everything. So when it goes into Final Cut 10, it looks the same. And I just exported ProRes 422, a ProRes HQ, and it looks exactly the same. So you shouldn't have any problems. But if you do the error correction, which I just showed you, when you go under preferences and check on that one option, Rec 709A, then you should be double covered.
We have more students.
I'm going to grab water.
Welcome, Joshua. Welcome, Nicholas. Welcome, Eric. So many FCM members.
So
I'm struggling reading the scopes to match different footage. Have any tips?
So you're talking about shot matching. I'm just going to keep going back to my point. Shot matching is going to be one thing that probably I will never cover on my YouTube channel because it's just deep. It's going to be disservice. It's going to be one of those, snake oil, like, salesman tactics to like kind of lure you guys in. It takes more, man. It's shot matching is the hardest thing. Like I'm still like getting better at optimizing my workflow to just really get, how to shot match really, really fast, do it right every time and keep getting better at it. Shot matching is one of those things that I feel like regardless of any type of colors that you are, that will just it's a lifelong process. You just get better at it, but you never just go done, conquer that, just like freaking battle. Like I never have to deal with it. So shot matching is an entire module in the masterclass with, files that you're going to get to practice along, when you watch the lessons. That is the only way to like really understand it. I'm sorry. I mean, there is just not a quick little tip that I can give you that you can just go, oh, that makes sense. If I can do that, that will be it. Even when people talk about RCM, right? Like Resolve Color Management, and they just go, that's it. What, like, shot matching, that's easy, man. Shoot with 18 different cameras, doesn't matter to me. I just do RCM. Like, I just let Resolve figure it out and give me the right image. That couldn't be further from the truth. When you shoot the same shot from two Arri Alexas on different lenses, you already have a color shift. Like, you can throw any Rec 709 LUT on it in Resolve. You can also do any CST, transform, color transform. That doesn't change the fact that the built-in color shift that happened between the two lenses, you have to manually fix that. So people got like weird notions about like, how shot matching goes and everything. It is one of the complex things. I have a whole module on it in the masterclass. That alone for you, if that's your pain point, would be worth like looking into my masterclass and purchasing it.
Protecting shadows and highlights while making some complex changes. Question?
So that's why I'm going to go back in here and show you what we got going on. If I go here and show you my second node right here is called highlights. And the way it works is that, see like where my highlights are sitting right now up there? What I can do in this node is that I can go under my qualifier. I can add some softness right here, 6.5-ish or something. I can hit Shift H so I can see what I'm grabbing. I can start going from here and just grab my highlights. Let's say these are my highlights. I just grab my highlights, right? You can see it up there. This was the whole point of creating this particular node before we get into our other correctors. Because now what I can do is I can go click on this tab, go under my highlights and just pull it back to like negative 38, 40-ish. And just look what it did right here. You see up here what it did? So watch this. Now if I go right here and I take my highlights and like really try to go up, right? Even something like this, and I clip them, I always have a way to go back here and then bring this information back easily. So I can, create the pop in the rest of the image, because like if I turn this on and off, it did added a lot of pop, but now nothing is clipping because I have a little control thing right here that gives me that full control. That's why, again, why having this pre-built node tree is so important, because all these things that you would want to control are already available there. So that would be one way to do it. Another way that I'm going to show you really quick would be this. What I usually do is on my timeline level, I go in here, go under my curves, and I just take my high soft and I put it right here. Look what it just did to the top. Boom. I just went in and I brought my high soft down. Don't bring it down too much. It's going to make your highlights look really murky. So you don't want to do that. But now look at this. Now when I take my gain and I just raise it, it has so much more give. It's just bringing in what's on the timeline level and like really trying to keep it in and not let it clip. So those are like two ways. Same thing will go with your shadows too. You can just mess with your low soft and bring it up a little bit on the node level, or on the timeline level. And then that's going to give you that flexibility. So that's a big hack that I just shared with you. This is a massive hack, by the way, that I use on all my projects. At the end, I will have this node on a timeline level set to this, and these are my limiters, right? So I mean, it will just make sure that I'm not clipping top or bottom. Like even like look at my bottom. See, it came up before it wasn't doing that. So if I go here, turn it off, look at what happens to my bottom. Boom. After I put this up, that's like my just kind of like I said, a limiter. That's not making degrading my image or anything, but just making sure everything stays in. All right.
He's like freaking out. He's like, watch this like hack, and then he's like, the rest of the image is preserved.
Yeah.
Anyway, is a layer mixer one way to key out greens like chroma key?
Layer mixer would be a way, but it's more than that. Like it's more than that. It's basically you're gonna have to bring in more information. So for pulling keys like chroma keys in Resolve, it gets a little bit more complicated than that. So the first thing you can do right here is you're gonna have to add another source. You see that little green dot? Oh man. All right, I'm gonna make this bigger so you guys can see it. So I'm gonna undo this. So keep your eyes right here on this green dot. I'm gonna right click here and I'm gonna say add another source. This other source, the bottom source is going to be the second clip. So this, say if there is a green screen, right? So like the green screen is at the bottom, the element is on top, whatever. It could be a person or whatever. That person is gonna be on top. Second layer, like whatever, this is gonna be up top. Then you come back into color, you create another, I didn't mean to do that. You create another corrector, you send this through, then on the bottom end, you create add alpha out. And now you got one alpha on this side, like this little blue line. You're gonna do your chroma key right here. You're gonna make your corrections, blah, 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 build your whole tree. And then you're gonna send this through like this. And then this is usually what's giving you the chroma key. That's the whole process. And that's why I'm saying it's a little bit more complicated than just like doing a layer mixer. So that's the proper procedure to do it. Or like back in the day when they had Red X, the Red X code or whatever it was, like where you can shoot in like 20 stops in red camera, like it would simultaneously shoot. This was the process that you would use to kind of unleash that until they came with like a HDR node. And now you can just right click on a node and turn your corrector into HDR node. But yeah, so that's the answer for that. Hopefully it makes sense.
We have more students. Welcome Dawn and welcome Whittold. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering your name. I do not mean it, I swear.
Hold on. Out of all of these names, like I just don't understand how much women hate me. Like, I don't think there was one.
I just said Dawn.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. I thought it was Don,
Lindsay.
Don.
No, Dawn.
Let's go.
Lindsay. Some names you never know.
I'm always wondering. I'm like, man, we just need to have more females in the mix. Like, especially this is such an art field. Like, we just need more of that. Let's go.
All right. What's your take on color space transforms and how can they affect the accuracy of your log footage? And then, do you find it beneficial to transform to the linear gamma for accurate exposure and color adjustments with the gain, then transforming to whatever gamma you prefer grading from? Thank you, Tim, for this lengthy question.
So, Tim, one thing that I'm going to start off with is like what I tell everybody. Like, anytime I get a Mythbuster, and I'm not saying you are that, but anytime I get a Mythbuster on YouTube telling me that, oh, you didn't even convert your log space, like, ha, 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 you're not even a colorist. I don't know where that memo or when that memo went out, where people just think that you need to transform your footage to Rec 709 or else, like, God will send you to hell. But it is just one way to do it, right? Like, I mean, converting it to Rec 709 is just one way to do it. There's nothing wrong with it. CST is nothing wrong with it. That said, you're not taking away the accuracy. You're not taking away anything from your image if you just build it from ground up. I am a huge fan of building my images from ground up. Lately, I've been doing it a lot with LUTs. Like, I use 2383, which is a film LUT available to Davinci Resolve. That's my go-to film print emulation that I build my looks on, built off of that. So that is my go-to LUT. So in a way, I am converting my image to Rec 709 with a creative LUT instead of a technical LUT, which would be like a C-Log2 to Rec 709. But that said, I don't think there is one linear way that people keep talking about, or you have to like restrict yourself. Because what happens is that when you start with the Rec 709, a lot of the times you are just like restricted. Like, all of a sudden your top is clipping, your highlights are clipping, your shadows are clipping, and you're kind of stuck in that world. Like, now how do you build the look you want to build? But at least to my eyes, when I'm just like looking at the image, when it is just like flat, it is just inspiring to me. Like, I feel like I can go places. So my eyes start like working, my brain starts working, and I'm like, all right, let's add saturation, let's add contrast, let's do temp and tint shift, and let's try to use some offset printer lights, let's try to get our image in the ballpark. Like, all those things start to happen. With Rec 709, it genuinely, for me, it takes away the fun out of the game. It's like a cheat code, you know, when you're playing a campaign of like Resident Evil or something. Like, you're playing a game for the experience, then you drop in unlimited bazooka, and like, now you can't run out of ammo. What's the point of playing the game? You know, hopefully this analogy makes sense, but that's all I'm trying to say. Like, I mean, for me, I like to work from the start, and I feel like it does not take away from the accuracy or anything like that. That's my preference. CSTs are great. In the masterclass, in my color correction module, or my camera module, you're going to see, I'm going to show you all different types of methods per camera, and then I'm going to do the comparison A/B test, and we're going to come to a conclusion to which method works best for which camera. And I'm not going to spoil any surprises, but let me tell you, the answer was never exactly the same. Like, sometimes Alexa was working better with this method compared to Red working better with that method, to Panasonic GH5 working best with this method. So, you know, again, once you have the masterclass, you go through that entire exercise, you're going to see it's going to blow your mind. That's why I always say, even just learning stuff that you guys see on my YouTube channel is one thing, but you will actually get to learn how to get the best image out of each color science of each camera manufacturer if you take the course.
Baby, tell them how they get into the FCM group if they purchase the course.
So I've already added that video now in the introductory section. So once you join FCM, you're going to get the login and everything. You sign up. Once you sign up, you're going to have all these videos available. And like I said, it goes under, you know, through sequential order. So in the introductory section, I'm going to tell you how to get a hold of me and how to join the group. And those things are mentioned right off the bat. But again, it's a Facebook group. That's the mastermind group. It's a closed group. So like, you know, if you're not part of the, you know, club, you don't get to join. But once you own the masterclass, you know, and we cross-reference your email address and everything checks out, there are some questions a little quick questionnaire that you take, and then after that, you get access to the masterclass. If you join right now, FCM, give us some time, okay? It takes about 3 to 5 days.
No, baby. I check them every day.
So she checks them every day. So like, probably you guys will be in by the end of the night. Like you'll be in tomorrow. So that is a lot faster than when we first started. Like it was like 3 to 5 days is what we were saying, telling people. So then you guys don't freak out if you join and you don't have access to the mastermind group by tomorrow. But now you guys will. Like,
Well,
she already said
like
it.
I invite everybody twice a week, but if you request it, then I approve them every day.
Right away, exactly. So like when you watch guys, one thing that I'm going to take a moment and say this, that if you join the masterclass, and people that have joined the masterclass and are still with me, please do not skip anything. Like, I love you, but I'm telling you, you don't want to skip anything because it's going to drive you crazy. Like I'm part of MPEG, Motion Pictures Editors Guild. I'm an editor first. So I'm really good at taking out the fluff and giving you a lot, like only the meat. So in this entire masterclass, there is hardly any fluff in there. So don't think that let's watch it at 4x speed. Let's skip through a couple of, because you read the title and maybe like it didn't appeal to you, whatever. Like there's tons of information buried in every single video. Just stick through it.
All right. I'm new to Resolve. I have a Sony A7S III.
A7S3.
A7S3. And I hear that Resolve does not provide metadata and only Blackmagic cameras. Is this something will be coming up, you think?
It's not just the metadata for those. I mean, Resolve will give you metadata for Sony Venice, like it'll give you metadata for, Alexa, Red, like all those cameras. So C500, like it does give you metadata for a lot of those. But yes, with Sony, I have used A7S3, or not A7S, A7 III and A6500, and I don't think it sends the metadata. That's just a thing for Resolve, man. I don't know what to tell you there, but more importantly, just the color grading process should be simple. If somebody shot it for you, you can ask them which profile they use, like S-Log2, S-Log3, whatever. Or if you shot it, then you should know if you shot it in S-Log2, S-Log3, Cine 4, whatever have you. And then that should be the building block when you bring in the footage and go from there.
All right. How do you color correct a video that's been washed out by a single color?
Yeah, so you're talking about if something is like tinted, right? Like, I mean, if something is like really pushed, how do you get it, in the right world? And its majority of it is going to happen using your offset. I mean, there's going to be shots. It's going to be this guy right here, printer lights. Like this is the sauce. Like when you have a cast on your image, I always forget that the screen is so small you guys can't see it, but let me make it bigger. Majority of it is going to happen right here. This is your offset wheel. And this is basically what's considered a printer lights. That's what it's called. So these offsets is where the magic happens. Anytime you have a heavy cast of some color, like if you have a heavy tint of like whatever, you come in here and you offset that. So if your entire image has like a washed out yellow on it or blue on it or something, you're going to come in here and you're going to go in the opposite direction to kind of counter that. And you're going to pull that out. So that's just the fastest, easiest, simplest way to do it. Another way would be temp and tint right here. Temp and tint. You're going to start messing with that to like see what you want to do. You want to subtract or add more juice, like whatever you want to do. You want to cool it off. You want to warm it up. That kind of stuff happens right here.
What do you recommend to start getting into the routine of shooting, editing, grading, posting more frequently? I do small travel kind of B-rolls now, but would like to graduate into short film, mainly in terms of time to spend and keep the motivation going.
So, I mean, this is a little bit more of a non-related, like to color grading, right? The answer, because I feel like it's more like a motivational message than anything else. But I will say, start taking out frictions. Like the frictions is the ultimate killer for anything, right? I mean, and it's just so easy, like for us to come up with those excuses. I mean, this training, we could have pushed it a week from now, or even better, holidays are coming in. Let's just push it all the way to January. And it's just that easy of a decision, or else we can just make it happen. So it's all up to us. We have to make these decisions. But what I do to actually then see those decisions come to life, I start chipping away frictions. Like what can make this entire thing more fun and, make the entire process seamless for me that I can do it. So camera settings, you want to shoot, edit, do all the things. You probably want to start off with like getting to know your camera really well. So if you know your camera really well and you understand how to shoot it properly to make it sing in post, then you just already got like a big freaking puzzle out of the picture, right? Like now you just got that, in the books. Also, if you're using a Sony or something that has good autofocus, or Canon EOS 6 or R6 or R5, those are great cameras for run and gun, travel videos, things like that. They have autofocus. You don't have to worry about like, nailing the focus. And now that's an additional thing that's going to add that friction, things like that. It's all about that, man. Creating a system and a process where you make the entire thing like effortless and frictionless. And then that leads into the other thing. It leads into the other thing. It leads into the other thing. But that's a very massive question because, like I said, you're going to start at learning your camera. Then you're going to start at really understanding editing to a point where it's like you overcome the hurdles. Because what holds us back is because we don't know something, right? If there's an unknown on the other side, I can't even try it because I don't know what I can do, how much I can push it. The reason why I get so excited about the camera module in this masterclass is because I get to give you permission and show you how far you can push each camera. So that right there is so massive for so many people because somebody might have Blackmagic, somebody might have Red. They just don't know how far they can push it because they've never seen the other side. Then you come here, you see it, and you go, oh my God, I was doing 20%. And this guy just showed me that I can go 80% more. I can push it that much because I'm using Red over, say, a consumer Sony or something like that. That's just like, a bigger picture answer to your question. But it's like you need to learn the right tools and they are going to help you take away those frictions and kind of unshackle, your beast, where you can just start, doing all the things and create your own systems and processes where it just becomes a habit.
Are you in the FCM fam for life after you get the course?
You are in FCM fam for life, and two things happen. You're in the FCM fam for life and you get lifetime access to the course. So anybody out there that's kind of always wonder like, hey, after the week, like, does it go away or what happens? Once you are inside, once you're part of the family, you're part of the family, right? Like you're not going anywhere. You get access to all of that. That again, like there are exceptions to that rule. Like I said, last week, I banned a few people from my group because I want to make sure that the integrity of this community stays intact. That is more important to me over money. So when you come into this culture, there is like a certain attitude that you need to have, and we're not demanding. It's just all love. Like the reason why it's a family and not customers, I don't want to call you guys my customers, is because it's more than that. I know most of you guys on a first name basis. I send voice messages back when you hit me up on Instagram. I drop you guys into my primary. That's how I create that separation to like general, anybody like, everybody else, the Cos Nation people, if you will. But then FCM fam lives in primaries. So then I prioritize it this way. So when you hit me up and ask me a question about a monitor or something, I can take that, send you a voice message, and just keep that dialogue going.
With more and more people joining FCM, how will you be able to provide your personal support in the future?
Okay, this is an amazing question, and that's a very important one and something that we need to, again, we brought it up. Like I brought it up yesterday. We talked about this, like what do we do with that? I like to build a plane while flying. That make me sound like, I'm just like too sporadic. I don't know what I'm doing, but think about what I just said. It's deep. Like it's better to just keep going 100% instead of like doing 60% because you're like, oh, I'm just thinking about the future. Like what's going to happen 2 years from now. So I'm doing my best. Yes, a lot has changed. So a year from now, this message for everybody. I was like on Instagram, like anybody hit me up. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to look at your work. I'm going to give you critique because I could. Now it's near impossible. 214,000 followers on Instagram, 120K plus on YouTube, 50,000, email people on email. It's 2,500 people, 2,400 people in the masterclass. Probably after this, 2,500, close to that. Like after this whole thing, when this kind of stuff happens, yes, I'm right there with you. All I can say is that I will be giving my 130% day in and day out. That's all we can do. And then when we come to a point where, okay, now it's just near impossible, then I'll probably hire colorists that are going to be at my caliber, have good communication skills to start pitching in. So then I take 80% and the other 20% that I can't handle, that overflow is poured over to, that person. And then you're still getting basically the same, FCM fam experience. You're not getting something watered down or anything like that. So that's how I'm thinking about attacking it.
Okay. What are your top shortcuts?
I have a whole video on that. I mean, off the top of my head, like, Alt S or Option S, Alt S on Windows and Option S on Mac. That's for a serial node. Option P for parallel node. Option L for layer mixer. Option O for outside node. So those are like the usual suspects that I use all the time. Shift S for a pre-node. So you got a new node, serial node. If you want a node prior to that, that's Shift S. That's a good one. I mean, I create a lot of my own. I go in and I just do a lot of like custom keys, like where, one button gives me a lot. So like right now, like the / gives me this. Like if I go here, it's going to be a small window, but you will still be able to see the effect. So like, see, like this is just bypassing on and off, like the whole effect. So that's bypass. And that, like, I created like a shortcut for that. And then to be honest with you, like I use my panel, and this big panel, like the reason why it costs $35,000 is because it literally just has any and every button that you need available, like at your fingertips. So it's a lot of muscle memory. You have to remember it, but I use that. Again, cool thing about like, if you were to get the masterclass, you guys know I use Stream Deck, right? Like it's a little device that has like where you can program keys. So you get a profile for Davinci Resolve that I created. So the secret sauce, you get my profile that you can take and upload to your Stream Deck, and then it will blow your mind. Like right now, I'm going to show you a few things that I'm just using Stream Deck and like, creating it from that. So like I can do a split screen. That is, yeah. So I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see, but this is all programmed on my Stream Deck. So like I can do, I can go in here and I can go back to the color page, split screen. So now we can just look at our split screen. I can do play and stop, like if I want to, right here, it's happening. If I want to do, again, like I said, if I want to do a pre-node, I can click this button and it gives me a pre-node. I can hit this button and get a post node. I can grab a still. I can just hit this, go back in here. I can hit grab still. I can grab a still. This is all on my Stream Deck. So all these are tagged right here. I can do zoom in, zoom to fit, zoom out, bypass. I can do, redo, undo, all of that. Layer mixer, disable node. I can go in this particular node and I can do disable node. So it's like all that is just in one hand, fingertips, spelled out. Like it actually has spellings on there because it's like little LCD screens and you can see it. You can upload graphics or whatever to it. So look into Stream Deck as well. But if you're part of the course, so a lot of the people that get the course, when they get these goodies, they don't even realize. They were like, dude, just getting this, like your keys, your custom keys for the Stream Deck alone was worth like $5,000 because it really is. Like when you're going to see the efficiency and what it does for you, it will blow your mind. So that kind of stuff happens a lot too,
Maybe talk about when people get the error of like download footage or whatever, because some people that just bought the course are getting that.
Okay, so
error.
So download quota, you're gonna get that error, especially today. That's like just a very, and That's a common error. Anytime Google has a limit on how much people can upload from an account. And I have the business account, but even then it has a limit. So right now the limit is like, I don't even know, like 100 gigs or 20 gig, like 40 gigs or something like that. So when people do enough uploads to hit that threshold, it chokes it. And it says quota exceeded, which means it is going to take 24 hours to reset. So every 24 hours it resets. That's why I have 3 or 4 links. They are to different Google accounts, and I think one is to a Dropbox account. So there are a bunch of different accounts with the same exact footage and course materials. So if the first link doesn't work, try the second one, third one, fourth one, and then if it doesn't work, be patient, wait for a day. You can still watch the lessons. You can still watch the training. You have access to the course, all the training videos. So watch those, wait for 24 hours for it to reset. And it will happen in a day like this where everybody's downloading course material. So just keep that in mind. But all of this that I just said is explained in a video when you watch the download guide video in FCM.
It's literally only a problem on like a day like today. TJ's here. He's dropping in so much FCM family love.
What's going on, TJ? That's my brother, man, right there. It's awesome.
All right. So is this like a PC based or Mac based, or it doesn't matter?
It's operating system agnostic. I mean, Linux, PC, Mac, doesn't matter. Everything that you're going to see here, we're all familiar with it, right? Like anytime we hear the term option, we know somebody's on a Mac. That means alt on a PC. When we hear somebody talks about command, we know that they're on a Mac. They're talking about control on a PC side, control key. So it's just, those are the modifiers, only modifiers that you really have to like kind of put a little bit of, quick critical thinking. But otherwise, yeah, it's exactly the same.
If we talk about images, there is a solution to edit raw on Davinci? Question
mark. For photography?
I don't know.
So, I mean, obviously that's the whole point, right? Like you use a tool like Davinci Resolve because you want to grade raw if possible. So yes, Davinci is a master of that. Like it lets you grade anything that is done, shot in raw, whether it's Blackmagic raw, RE raw, what is it? Canon Light, which is like their Canons like raw light or whatever. And then it goes for any camera. So it lets you do that, no problem. But if you're talking about photography, some people have asked me that before. I don't ever recommend using this tool for photography because it's like you can play videos in Lightroom, but I don't recommend you grading your videos in Lightroom. Like it's a tool, a specific tool for a specific job. So you can take this knowledge, you can learn a lot still, take this knowledge and apply it. I take my color grading knowledge and apply it to a default app that we have in an iPhone. And it translates through. Then if I'm ever in Lightroom, I'm happy as anyone because it's like I am using all those tools like hue versus options, all of that. Like I have those tools there, adding grain, vignettes, all of that, masking inside, outside, all of that. So it translates, it's just called something different and you need to know where the tools are. But yeah, so that's my answer.
Can you make a list of books?
So I don't know what you're talking, color grading related books. I mean, I've already given you my 2 cents. I mean, books came out 6 years ago. Like half of that stuff is not applicable, right? Where you are and the software you're using and the things that, Resolve lets you do today. So a lot of it is already obsolete. Also, I yet have to read a color grading book that is more about turning you into a tastemaker and not give you the how-to or a textbook knowledge. Like every book that's out there right now, it's a textbook, it's a how-to. And the problem with how-tos is that they have an age limit on it, right? So the thing that gets me so excited about my FCM is that I have zero scarcity that Resolve 17 just came out. My whole course is in Resolve 16 and Resolve 17 is going to be dropping soon. That doesn't change my masterclass at all because the last thing that I focus on is like exclusive things that you have to Resolve 16 because that ages really badly. Like my masterclass is more about turning you into a tastemaker, developing you as a colorist, giving you that foresight, and then making you profitable. So it's like different kind of things, right? So I yet have to find a book when it comes to editing, things like that, blink of an eye, those books like where they go really outside of like how to read time codes as an editor, blah, blah, blah. For color grading, I haven't found one book yet like that.
All right, another FCM member. Welcome, Rory.
Welcome, Rory.
All right. If you're compositing in Fusion, is there a way to bring individual plates over the color panes for better grading? Example, not the whole composited clip, but its individual sources.
Yeah, I mean, what you would do is, first of all, I think I want to say, I just want to make a quick call to, we should be wrapping up soon. We've been going on for like close to 3.5 hours. And I think we get choked at 3.5 hour mark or 4 hour mark or something like that here. And there's a limit to like how long we can go live here with the package that I have. So I want to say we're going to be closing it off soon. This link is going to be disappearing. So if you're still thinking about it, because I see there's still 370 people that are watching it currently. So if you haven't joined the club, join the FCM fam, don't worry about it. Just like sign up right now. We'll figure out the rest later. Like join right now, because even after today, even if you do a monthly payment plan, you don't want to pay $500 more than the deal that you're getting right now. So jump on it. This is your opportunity. And let's take a few more questions.
Okay. So the masterclass is constantly updated, right? So it's always up to date.
So masterclass, exactly. Like, I mean, I've updated so many things in the masterclass that I forgot to add those in this deck, in this PowerPoint presentation that I had created. I forgot to mention so many things. There's a whole new module in there, which is 10 tips to grade 10 times faster in Davinci Resolve. And it's 10 individual lessons. And it's one of my favorite new addition to the masterclass. And I didn't even talk about it. And that's in there. And that's one of the earlier things. When you join the masterclass, you go through all of that. Like, I mean, you're going to see a whole section that's going to be there. So it actually makes me very excited too, because I feel like I shared so much here that probably you guys listening to it are going, holy hell, there's so much to this class. But then when you join, you're going to be pleasantly surprised because there's so much more.
What is your favorite look from all the years you graded and why? Greetings, Peter, Netherlands.
What's going on, Peter? Man, talk about DeLitt, talk about De Jong, talk about the players that you guys gave us. Like, I mean, the soccer would never be what it is.
All right.
If it's not for Netherlands, man. Robin from 2014 World Cup. Come on, bro. So, man, I got so excited. I almost forgot the question.
What's your favorite look that you've graded from all the years?
So that I graded, I mean, it's crazy. There is this thing that I worked on called Rockstar. It's on my website, thepostvillage.com. And it's from like the project I worked on with my homie, Justin, who I always call like, he's like that creative director. We called him Don Draper from Mad Men. You know, so he has this way where he is just so, he lives in the clouds, you know, so he comes in and when he talks to you, he's just always like talking about this big picture. He's never in there granular and like picking apart each thing about the grade. He just comes in, gives you this like, you know, this is what he's thinking, this is what he wants, and he walks away. And, you know, a lot of the look recreation bug in me came from that, because he came over and told me that he was vibing on the Revenant. Revenant has just came out. And he said, I'm looking for the Revenant look. Like, I think we should go in that direction. And the footage was shot with Alexa, so it wasn't hard to get that. And then it was shot beautifully and all that. So I started creating some of that. And then eventually it evolved, you know, like the producers came in and they wanted more juice and they didn't want it to be so flat and blah, blah, blah. So we didn't end up keeping the ultimate Revenant look, but it still had that look DNA. So that's one of my favorite looks that I created. I also worked on a commercial for Speedo, which is on the website as well, where where I started to where I ended up, the instant gratification of that was just like pure ecstasy. Like it was just out of control. Like when I saw what I had created and what happened in the post-production process, it was unreal. When I sent it out and sent those stills to the creative director, he matched my excitement. So when stuff like that happens, it's very memorable. And both of those projects are on there if you guys want to check it out.
What, like, how did you get interested in color grading?
So that's like a story that I shared earlier before we jumped into this live training. But I mentioned that, I went to school for cinematography and editing, and then it was sort of like the next step. When you are a cinematographer and you are just starting out, one, your stuff is not that great, because you're learning. But two, I always ask that question. I'm like, what is that one thing that's missing? What is that thing that I'm missing? And that thing was color grading. And then it kind of led me into Final Cut Color. So for those that remember, drop a comment below and tell me you're one of us. But like Final Cut Color was one of those things in 2009 that I picked up, started messing with it. We had it available in our school. And then from there, it was Davinci Resolve 8. Man, you guys don't even want to like look at the stills of Davinci Resolve 8. It's just such a Microsoft DOS looking thing. And then from there, it just moved up and got interested. And once I started playing with it, it was love at first sight. It never changed. Like even to this day, right? Like, I mean, you guys hear the excitement in my voice through YouTube videos or whatever. Like I get more excited than you guys when you're watching it and I'm creating the looks. But even like this, right? Like even just doing this little change, I know the screen is small, but you can still the hue shift that's happening here. But to be that magician, to have that much control and do it in such a at a fast pace, like we're not picking out like each strand of like grass and like what we want to do with it, each blade of grass and like what we want to do with it. It's just happening on such a massive level, like these crazy wide brush strokes, yet we get to cherry pick each element of each frame and, just take it where we want to take it. So like, that is just so beautiful, man. Like, I mean, I just, there was a time when I kind of fell out of love, when it comes to cinematography, editing, but that had never been the case with grading. I just keep falling in love day in and day out.
What kind of storage solution are you using?
So for now, it's two different things. So I have a online setup and I have a server, where everything goes to basically live, where it gives me access anywhere I am. Like, doesn't matter. I don't need to be home, like at a physical location. So I'm using Synology 1819 Plus. I think that's what it's called. I might be getting the digits wrong or reversed, but I think it's called Synology 1819 Plus. It's their best, basically, server on a prosumer level that you can get. And then anything outside of that is like those massive servers get super expensive and it's a whole different game. I don't need to go there. It's an overkill for me. So I have that server. And then I got the 10 gigabit card with the Ethernet connection. So the speeds are just out of control. I'm getting 1,000 down and 1,000 up on my server, which is unreal, right? Like, I mean, if I were to, I'm going to try to open it up because I know people get geeked out about it. So I'm going to see if I can pop this open and run a test and let's see what kind of speeds we get. Sometimes it glitches out and it doesn't give me those speeds, but right now I'm on my server, so let's run it. So right now, look at the right. I'm getting 800 on the right and I'm getting 1,000 on the read. So just look at that, 800 to 1,000, which practically means it's telling you that I can play a 4K ProRes 422 HQ in 1080p or in 4K at 206 frames a second or 257 frames a second. So this is out of control. Or even like Blackmagic Raw, I can run it at 80 frames and 100 frames, especially when you're playing it back, you're doing a read. So I can run it at 100 frames in 4K in Raw. So, I mean, these like speeds are out of control. So that's my server, but I don't work off of my server. I still have an online storage, and that is G-Tech Studio RAID. So that's what I'm using. It's their, it's their G-Tech Studio XL. That's what I'm using. And it's pretty fast. It's like 700. It's like 700 read and write. So it's still really fast. So that's what I'm using as my local. And then periodically overnight, everything gets transferred over to my server. And you saw the speeds on my server. I can practically just work off of my server. Yep.
What's the best way to reach perfect color visible on different devices?
I mean, when you find out, let me know. That is one thing that is just going to be really hard for it to happen. Um, every Because the screen is reflective, right? Like the material of the actual screen right there, that's where the difference is created. It's almost like thinking about different lenses. The day every lens shoots the same colors is the day every screen will give you the same result, if that makes any sense. Like even this glass to that glass, they look different, right? You look at Zine, lenses compared to like Canon CNE, series. Both are cinema glass. One has a lot of green, a lot of yellow. The other one has a lot of magenta, right? So I mean, they're leaning there on those. It's a lens. It doesn't have a processor in it. It doesn't have a sensor in it or sensor. Like it doesn't have a software in it that's like error correcting something, whatever. That didn't happen up until you slap it on a camera. But that is a fundamental difference that is happening in the optics. This is no different when it comes to screens. There are so many different tiers, right? Like, I mean, we can go from a $200 screen to a $35,000 monitor that I had that I broke. But, so you can go, there's all these ranges, and you might go like, why does, 35,000, what's so special about that monitor? Until you see it. And there's so many different things at play. So I feel like instead of worried about how to make something look good on every screen, all you can do on your side is make it look good on your proper screen setup. That's why I say it's worth investing in a screen, because if you even have like a $2,000 monitor like the CG279X from ISO, even if you have something like that, at least you can get a proper looking image on your screen. That's the best you can do. You know that your screen is not shifted. It's not showing you too yellow, too green, too magenta, whatever. It's showing you accurate representation of where the colors are supposed to be on a calibrated monitor. And then from there, you just, see off your footage and hope for the best that people are going to look at it and they're going to like it. And that's what Hollywood does. They work on a $35,000 monitor, grade their movies, and that's all they care about. And majority of the time it looks good. People are going to watch the trailer for, The Boys Amazon show, or they're going to watch the trailer for Dune, like any of that like movies, top end movies. And like you watch it and you go, oh my God, it looked phenomenal, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter if you have Samsung Galaxy, if somebody has like Google Pixel, or somebody has an iPhone. And if you put those three screens next to each other, I promise you, it will be a completely different look. I'm telling you, I do this all the time, where I put like a Pixel next to an iPhone, completely different. Pixel, warm as F. iPhone, pretty accurate. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm Team Apple, loud and proud. But that said, there is a reason for it, because I'm a colorist, and Apple products are just from out the gate, give you the most accurate, closest colors, how things should look. And I say this because I'm looking at calibrated screens and they're that close.
Does using a LUT converting to Rec 709 at the beginning of your node structure not restrict your footage, limiting your color space, removing your HDR?
So it will. It definitely will. That's why you're not going to throw a Rec 709 LUT CST if you are grading an HDR. And that's why I'm not the biggest fan of it. But CST is different, right? Because you can go in and set up like, ST2084 and set it up into a DCI P3 color space and then open your image up completely. So CSTs, take them out of the question. But technical LUTs, if you actually mean like a Rec 709, like this is a technical LUT right here. RE, RE raw to Rec 709, or RE log C to Rec 709. So this is a technical LUT. If you're going to drop that on and it's Rec 709, of course, it's going to restrict your entire image to that, 7 to 8 stops, which is Rec 709, compared to your whole image. And that's why I have a pre-node. I have like a node before the LUT or any of those conversions. So then I can go back, open up my image, and still play with all the latitude that a log will give you from any camera.
When coloring skin tones, do you strive for a natural neutral look, or do you stylize the skin to match the grade?
So I put out a video, guys. I'm kind of losing my voice, so I think I'm gonna start wrapping it up. Like, what should we do? Put a timer, like a 10-minute timer?
It's almost 3.5 hours. 2 minutes away. 3.5 hours.
Okay, so yeah, like we have 5 minutes. It's 2:35. Let's just do like a 5-minute timer, and then we're gonna call it like around 2:30ish. So, or 2:40ish. Like we're gonna call it in like 5 minutes, something like that, around 2:40ish. So then that way we just have our expectations and go take a few more questions. I'm sorry, just repeat the same
Skin
question.
tone neutral.
So for skin tones, I'm gonna say, again, no set rule, right? Like no set rule, never is. Proper skin tones, that is one thing that you wanna strive for. Get it in that world and then play with it. But if you watch Moonlight, when you bring in that footage and when you pop open your node tree and look at where the skin tones sit, they're never going to be like where you would think that they're supposed to be. That's just not how the game is played. Like they're gonna live in the look that they're trying to create. But that's why a base grade is so important. I always talk about base grade. Get all your colors in the right place, create enough separation in terms of your luminance values and your chroma values. Get your image at that point. So then when you start picking apart and you qualify your skin and everything, one, you get the best results. Two, say later down the road, you create a really push look, you can always go back and backtrack it and try to make the skin look realistic or close to realistic, or ultimately our favorite, phrase, split the difference. So those are the ways you would approach it.
You advise the LG 600 UL.
Yeah.
When I looked at it, it didn't say 100% sRGB Rec 709. What's important when buying a monitor?
So first of all, people that are still on and are not part of FCM, the link is right there. It's going to go away after the live ends. So if you haven't join now. What I'm going to say about the UL 600, see, the warning just came up. So yeah, this is going to be closing. This is going to be ending very soon, guys. Okay, so the thing that I'm going to say about that is, let me make my screen as big, is LG UL 600 is a consumer monitor, okay? So I have to look at the stats more for myself, but I never had any issues grading for sRGB. I never used that monitor as my reference. I have had professional monitors since like 2014. So 2015. So that's a different story. That's why I say I invest in the right tools, because it makes all the difference in the world. UL 600 is going to get the job done. If you're just starting out, if you are not a colorist charging color rate, colorist rate, if you're not at that level, UL 600 will get the job done once you calibrate it, or not even calibrating it. UL 600 was something that was pretty okay right out the gate, but at the same time, it doesn't hurt to then do the, X-Rite I1 display, go through the whole process, and then slap on the probe, let it do its thing, and then use it that way for Rec 709 or sRGB space, and you should be getting pretty good results. Again, if you're starting out, you're doing stuff for web, you're not grading in HDR, you should be totally fine.
How do you use Impulse
Yep.
LUTs?
Yep.
You used it on How to Color Grade Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yep. So Impulse LUTs are phenomenal. I support them, and it was one of those things that I ran out of time, but I wanted to build some sort of a partnership with them as well before even this live. So then I could have had like even more incentives, but eventually it's going to go down. Like it's going to happen. I believe in that product. I want to bring them on, get 30%, 40% off, whatever on their products. But Impulse LUTs are phenomenal. They break them down into 4 or 5 different categories. So one would be a film print emulation, which means you're going to drop it on. It's barely going to look like it's doing anything, but it's giving you access to half and half, where half the look is created, but then you have flexibility to do the rest. Then there's one that I used the most back in the day, which was FC. FC is their basically final color. When you drop that LUT on, it's going to come in pretty heavy. So instead of like you going in and dialing back the opacity, you can just drop on the LUT FC final color and just go from there. without getting in more into that side of their functionality of their LUTs, what I can say is that they cover a wide gamut. I mean, their collection of all the film stocks are second to none. So I highly recommend it. The results are really, really good. Some of them are better than the other. You'll know. Some of them will break, but majority of it is so freaking clean, man. I said so many times, but literally they're so clean. So now I cannot not say so crazy. Now I'm in my head.
Very, very.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch it up. I'm starting to sound like somebody. But definitely, I support it. Just go with impulse if you can.
How do you make your video more crisp or sharp, like music videos nowadays?
All right, I'm gonna show you a quick tip. It's in my videos. You've seen it before, but I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna spell it out so even if it's pixelated, you'll know what I'm doing. So go right here for sharpening. Go under here. It's called blur. This is your blur tab. And when you're in here, grab your radius, bring it down to 0.47. Never, ever, ever. This is a huge pro tip. Anybody that's part of masterclass abuses this because it works all the time. So bring this down to 0.47. Do not go past 0.47. It's going to look posterized and it's going to look really, really bad. It looks like VHS. Keep it around 0.47. That's the limit. The sharpening, if you guys could have seen this in full res, would have blown your mind. Like, I mean, it just does the right amount. It makes it look like HDR or 1080p look like 4K. So that's one. Another tip is to use grain. So the combination between grain and sharpening, that's the chef's kiss right there.
Can you explain a bit of the workflow from Premiere to Resolve? Should we always lock the picture before we color in Resolve?
I feel like I'm just about to lose my voice. My throat is hurting so much.
You're already going over the time limit.
But what's really crazy is that it makes me realize, how do people do like these live seminars for days?
I was more so thinking about the election guys.
Oh yeah,
the reporters that were like literally working.
These reporters went on for
48
freaking
hours.
like without any sleep. It's like my throat is just almost gone.
I like made them take lunch and stuff.
Yeah, I gotta practice more, I guess. But I'm sorry, I keep forgetting the questions.
Okay, do you have to have it in picture lock?
So yes, I highly recommend have your projects in picture lock in Premiere Pro before sending it to Resolve. Highly recommend that. It almost never happens, so that is the truth. You are gonna have a picture lock to a picture lock V2 to a picture lock V3 to a picture lock V17. You know how it goes. So it's like, that's just the name of the game. I worked on a Dodge job and it's a picture lock, comes in, I start grading it, and then, somebody in Michigan send it to somebody in New York who sends it to Japan, and somebody said somewhere something needs to be changed. So they changed the shots, then they sent me those shots individually, orphan clips. I bring them in, I layer them, I manually put them on top of my footage. I still have my new reference footage to kind of match it to see everything lines up. And then I just go and grade it. So it's a little bit of like a manual process. In the masterclass, I break it down what to do in that scenario. And so you get to see it in action, how to attack that.
Don't know if this is an answer, but have you ever had to do DCPs?
I personally have not. I have not worked with DCPs or easy DCP, like, a plugin that everybody says, like, you should get if you're doing a lot of DCP work, but personally have not done it, so can't talk about it. I'm a commercial colorist. I live in this world, and now I'm sort of doing a lot of music videos because I'm expanding and kind of becoming more of like a cherry picker. Like now I get to pick my projects that I want to work on. So this is a fortunate position to be in, but mostly like I'm doing music videos, commercials, short films, documentaries sometimes, but not a lot of like dealing with DCPs. No.
Is it 10 bits 420 enough for splitting tone?
Yes, I mean, when you take the masterclass and when you do the weekly competitions, the one thing you will keep hearing from me is lift, gamma, gain, and hue versus options. Lift, gamma, gain, and hue versus options. Lift, gamma, gain, and hue versus options. And that's what I'm going to say right here as well. But obviously, like there's more tactile approach when you're like during my weekly competitions, whatever, I'll pull up an image, I'll give you an example and show you what you could have done to make it better. Certain thing that you were struggling with in your grade, let's say. But I will say the same thing to you that even if it's 16-bit and it's really easy to pull, you know, everything in an image, and this is Alexa, so same thing, 12-bit image, just beautiful. It's just effortless. I can grab anything and it just like gives me the perfect key, no chatter, and it makes it really easy. Even then, if I can avoid it, I will avoid it. And we did that in the hue versus options, right? Like, I mean, if I go here and turn this on and off, you saw how much, I know it's a small screen, I know, but I mean, let's just make it bigger so you can see it. But if you see how much magenta we had living in all of this area, and now I'm going to do after, how we were able to clean that up so simply because we just used our hue versus options. We went in here, hue versus saturation, and boom, boom. Two little quick moves, and we made the image go from like looking like a $300 spot commercial to like thousands of dollars. Like it just looks so clean. It's just a little subtle thing. Change made all the difference in the world, and it was done without any qualifiers. So what I will say is that, especially for a 10-bit image that's 420, less color sampling. So try to do it without. Don't think that you can't pull keys. You can pull keys. I mean, I showed you even in my YouTube tutorial that you can pull keys on a 420 8-bit image. You can pull key on that. So you can obviously pull keys on a 10-bit image.
Have you painted your room 18% gray?
It really is. I mean, I went nuts. I mean, first I went really, really nuts. I ordered crazy expensive, same can, same company, same brand that all big production houses use in LA. So first I ordered that. And then there was a huge debacle. I mean, that whole color grading process or painting my room process went on for like, what, 5 to 7 days?
It was like, yeah.
It was like a week-long process. Unfortunately, that paint didn't work out, and we ended up getting something similar. I ended up getting something very similar to that. Again, did a whole video on that in my masterclass where I take you through swatches and tell you exactly which paint to get for your room, depending on what's your budget. So that's also is going to blow your mind. I will talk about this paint exactly in my masterclass and tell you how to get it, where to get it. So that's all in there. But yes, it's 18% gray. I can never look back. I mean, in the beginning when I moved here, I didn't want to go with this color. And then I told my wife, I'm like, I think I made a mistake. I want to do this. And then it ended up being like
yes, we had to disassemble the room.
The entire room.
Yeah.
It was an eternity.
How long should I wait to buy the studio version? After 2 gigs, 3 gigs?
So before the first gig, I mean, I'm not joking. The studio version, for you to access noise reduction and for you to access grain alone and glow, these effects, no brainer. Not to mention, you remember when you didn't have the paid version, like how slow and laggy it was? I don't know if it's true or if it's a myth, but we experienced that. She was using the regular version and it will choke on everything, man. It could be a podcast audio. And she has like a pretty souped up MacBook Pro. It would just do random things. And I bought her a license for a studio version, and game over. Like, never had any issues. Like, it's a lot better now, right? There's like no issues at all. So performance gain will be above everything. Noise reduction, biggest one, like second biggest factor. Grain, glow, and all these main like usual suspects effects that you guys see me use day in and day out. No brainer. Not to mention you cannot export 4K. You're limited to 1080p. It might have changed. I don't know. Back in the day, the game was that you can only export 2K maximum. You cannot export 4K.
Adam said you can't use MXF files. Reversion.
Well, that's another thing. That like kills it. That's a big one. Like if you can't use MXF, like I feel like even I have to check it again, but I feel like C-Log, like the Canon files are MXF, but I have to look at it. But anything that's coming from, Avid could be a problem as well then.
Someone is signing off and they said lots of love.
Oh.
Have you ever graded in Dolby Vision that should allow you to deliver both in SDR and HDR at the same time? Doesn't it? Sorry if this is...
It's amazing. I love it. It's so good. Now I sounded like someone. But it is perfection. Dolby Vision and the way now you can set it up for HDR and multiple different trims. Basically what it is that I grade something in HDR because you always want to start with the biggest bucket, right? So I graded something in HDR. Then I go in and I turn on Dolby Vision in my configurations here, right? Under color management. Then I come out here and it will have like a little icon that's Dolby Vision. Let's just do this. I'm not going to give you a HDR rundown, but if you click on this guy, open this up, and you go down here to your color management and you go enable Dolby Vision right here. Okay. And then you come out, keep your eyes right here. What's going to happen here? I come out, it gives me a new tab. This is my Dolby Vision tab. So say I graded my entire thing in HDR. I come in here. These are called trims. So right now the target display outlet or output is 100 nit. This is basically a trim for anybody that's watching content on SDR monitors that don't go past 100 nits, right? That's pretty common. So if I hit selected and if I hit analyze, selected would be this one clip, analyze all will be everything. When you hit this one button, it will take your HDR image that was on your screen, analyze it literally using AI, and create 100 nit version of that ready to go. Now you can just hit export. You didn't have to grade it separately. It will do a killer job, okay? Like it won't do like a half-ass job. It will do a killer job ready to go. Then you can click on this and say, now do it for 600 nits. A lot of like the LG B6 and the early OLED TVs that came out, they were not 1000 nits. Some OLEDs are still not 1000 nits, consistent or constant, right? So what you want to do is that you want to then make a 600 nits trim. So in a hypothetical scenario, we are uploading something to Netflix. We graded in an HDR 1000 nits. So we graded in 1000 nits. Now we want to create two versions. We want to create a 100 nit version. We want to create a 600 nit version. And Dolby Vision, the beautiful thing about it is that when you export it, it will have all of those three in a parallel world. Like it will send out data of all those three metadata, like three trims in one file. So on Netflix, when somebody's watching your content and their screen is, they have an old TV or something, it will switch it into SDR 100 nits. It's going to show your 100 nit version. Then if somebody's watching it in an old OLED that doesn't go to 1000 nits, it's going to kick in the 600 nits and give them the best, most optimized image. But if somebody has newer TVs, 1000 nits, more than that, anything like that, it will kick it in to full 1000 nits, your final version. So a quick, not so quick rundown, but that's like Dolby Vision, super exciting. This is the future, man. It's beautiful.
Do you think that there's opportunity to freelance outside of LA, like Vancouver, Canada?
People are killing it. Brian, I don't know if Brian is still on, probably not, but Brian from Brazil, killing the game. Like the kind of projects he's working on, he's got clientele in Hollywood. He's working with like established editors that discovered him on Instagram, and now he's grading stuff through them. And then he's getting referrals. Once you get that thing going, man, like once you get the snowball rolling, you only need one or two clients, then it's game over. Like, just through social media last year, I expanded my footprint so much. Like now in Malaysia, in Morocco, like I'm working with these massive, like the Taylor Swifts of the world, Justin Biebers of the world. I'm working with those artists in those countries. And now we're just on like first name basis. We're liking each other's freaking posts on Instagram. The only difference is I have 200,000 followers. They have 7 million followers, but still like they know me. So now it's not even a question of like, should we hire Kazi again? They do a project, they send it over. It's like a seamless process. So what's going to happen? They're more people are going to find out about me, more artists are going to find out about me, and you just explode that way. So no way, man. I barely am recently, working a lot in LA. Like I still have clients here that I don't want to give up on, but absolutely, as a colorist, it's one of the easiest things in post productions to do it remotely.
What monitor would you recommend for a $1,000 budget?
So now we're just going all the way through. At 4 o'clock, we're going to get cut. We already got a warning, or 3 o'clock. I'm sorry, because that was like
Literally
a 4.
5 minutes.
Yeah, so that was a 5-hour warning. So we're going to get cut in 5 minutes, or 4 minutes. I do want to say that 5 minutes left then for you guys to join the masterclass for those that haven't. So literally after this ends, the link goes away, the coupon goes away. You won't be able to sign up. So if you want to take advantage of $500 off to become part of this masterclass, this culture, get access to the mastermind group, everything that you have heard in the last 4 hours, it should be a no-brainer at this point, or else I suck at my job, getting the point across. So the link is right there. Click on it. Join right now. Let's go.
We got 3 new students. Johanna, a girl, yay. Paul,
Hey.
and Humayun. The question is the $1,000 monitor.
Monitor under $1,000 range, I will say, all right, won't send me let me send them a message. That's fine. A monitor under $1,000 range, I would, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I mean, I will go with, I will see what, you know what? I would look at what BenQ has. Because I'm sure ISO is expensive, but you might be able to find like entry level ISO for $1,250 or $1,500. I really would say that if you can dish out $1,000, let me be a bad influence and say throw additional $250 or $500 on your credit card and get a $1,500 monitor. The difference is going to be night and day. So you don't want to pay $1,000 and get as bad results as you would from a $400 or $300 monitor than getting a monitor that's going to give you really close to what accurate colors should look like, all that. So look at ISO, what their cheaper options are. I don't have a model number off the top of my head. Look at BenQ. BenQ's SW series, no other series. Don't look at their PD or anything else. Those are all consumer level. Look at they used to have PV, which was professional video series. They don't have it anymore. So you want to look at their SW series, which is their top of the line, and look at different sizes. So 24, they might have a 24, 27, which is cheaper than obviously 32. See if you can, snag something from there, but those would be my options.
What is your bias lighting color temperature?
When I'm shooting, my camera is set to 5600 Kelvin. I mean, but hold on. I'm sorry. I got it all. I took it the cinematography route. You're talking about my bias lighting right there. That I'm pretty sure is like D6500, but it's more than that. So you actually have to just go look it up. Media light bias lighting. So just go on Amazon, type in media light bias lighting, or Google FSI bias lighting, and it's going to pop up that light that you need. Honestly, there's not a better player in the game, but I'm not the biggest fan of these lights because they're color accurate. Sure, they take a lot of eye stain off of you, like, so a lot of the stain is, or strain is gone. Like when you're working and you have a lot of eye strain because it's just all black, right? You got this bright screen and nothingness. So this is why you want to have a bias lighting, right? So their light temperatures are second to none. Their light quality is the worst, period. Like, quote me on this and just blast it everywhere. I mean it. Like, it just sucks that I don't know who they're using their actual quality of the light. I bought like 5 different times like lights from them, bias lighting. You just do this to the cable, you wiggle it this much, and it just goes through 7 different variation of like the intensity of the light. It's all the lights, they're the same. So the color temperature is great on it, but that is just like, oh man, I don't know. But that's the bias lighting that I'm using, and I'm pretty sure it's like D6500.
Is the iMac 5K monitor good for grading?
iMac, I'm not sure. It will be good in 2 years when the world will move to transition, the web world will transition into P3 color space. That is where we are headed. That is the cinema color space, the DCI P3. That is the Netflix color space. It's a really wide bucket, really big bucket. Like if Rec 709 is this, right? If Rec 709 is this, P3 is this. It's really large, right? And then Rec 2020 is that. It's really huge. Like, I mean, it's literally like how my hands are, out of the frame. Rec 2020 is that. But P3 is like this, and then Rec 709 is that. So Apple started making the move on the iMacs years ago on the P3 direction. Then the iPhone started supporting P3 color space. Now the iPhone internally does the HDR. So you give it Dolby Vision, you give it anything, it converts the footage. So anytime I work on, my grades in HDR, I export them. When I send it to my iPhone and I play it, it kicks it in to HDR, just like your TV would when you're watching something on Netflix. So Apple has been messing with it. Samsung is messing with it. LG is messing with it. So it's on the horizon. I will still give it about 2 years till P3 kicks in completely. So until then, iMac is not the best choice because iMac's, screen is, the display referred is set to P3 color space. Now you can go change it to Rec 709. I never had good results. There's something that's left, to be desired from MacBook Pro colors and iMac colors. There's a hint of magenta that you cannot get out, even if you do their own OS calibrator settings, or even if you drop a probe on it and let that do its thing. There's just additional, like it's magenta bias. It's not really accurate. I never had the most fun like grading on an iMac.
All right. You want to do last call? One last question?
All right. One last question, guys. Like, let's just end it. So last question. I'm going to literally give you guys 2 minutes or 1 minute to go sign up for the masterclass for those that haven't. But that said, that's it. Let's just take the last question.
All right. We started with nodes. We'll end with nodes. Were any layer nodes in your node tree? It looked like only parallel nodes.
Great question. Excellent question. So it is a really simple answer. Like this right here, let me go back in there. The reason why these were created right there. So let me push this over, make it a little bit bigger. So you guys remember right here, my skin and my eyes nodes right here. So these two were created for that specific reason. That's why I said when I'm doing a granular change, specific change, it was designed for that. I left it at parallel because if I were to change it to layer, it will change the entire grade. So I left it at parallel, but it would be really easy for me to just right click over here and say morph into layer mixer node. I'm looking at the screen, how pixelated it is, but I'm reading it out for you. It says morph into layer mixer node. So if I click on this bottom one, it will turn it into a layer mixer. It's that easy to flip it. And these two are sitting there for that reason. So if we're going for a stylized push look, whatever we want to do with it now, we can do it at this stage of the grade. And then that is going to make sure that all the keys and everything that we pulled here are going to stay intact. Because if we make these changes earlier down the road, then that will affect these keys right here. That's why I don't have keys here. I have my qualifiers right here. So they stay intact. I go and do my layer mixer if I want to, and then I do my windows and everything, and like everything stays intact. So guys, excellent final question, and very poetic to start with nodes and then end on nodes. I mean, I don't have to say it. You guys know it. Like this, like we still have questions to go through, right?
There's still questions, but there's no time. You literally have like.
We just went through so many questions. There were more questions to attack. We did this for 4 hours, right? That's math. Started at 11, ended at 3:04. So even with the 10-minute hiccup that we had, we still went on for 4 hours. So love you guys so much. Seriously, this is unreal. And this is so good that we did that, because now, like I told you, I'm going to take this entire thing and I'm going to cut it up and I'm going to upload it to my masterclass. So this people that are part of the masterclass will always have access to all of this. And the reason why, when I started and I said Q&A is my favorite section, now you know why. I spent majority of the time on the Q&A because these are your questions. You need like the proper, tailor-made answer to what your problem is. And if I can help you, makes me very happy. On that note, love you for all the love. This was unreal. We're going to do another one of these lives in 3 to 5 months, something like that. But until then, peace.